All right, that makes us official. With the exception of the reverb on my computer. Okay. All right, I think that's better. So first I will ask everybody at the table to make sure their microphones are on, make sure the green button's showing, and make sure you, when you speak, you get really close to it. Because I know from attending last council meeting remotely from home, it's very, very difficult for those on Zoom to hear if you're not speaking right into the microphone. So I want to start first of all for thanking the council and the board for getting together and sitting down to kind of go over the ordinance request and whatnot. But I really want to thank the all the residents who either are here and or who wrote in. All of your comments that were written were distributed to the council. Just as a matter of housekeeping, this is a workshop. So during this piece of our meeting, there will be no public comment, but when we get into the 7 o'clock part of the meeting, very close to the beginning, there is time for citizen comment. So if you're thinking about making a comment at that time, there are yellow half sheets over by the door. If you could fill one of those out and get it to Kelsey here on the end of the other table, she'll get those to me so I can call those out. At that time, citizen comments are each limited to 3 minutes. And it is not a back and forth. It's strictly a comment period for the council and the trustees as well to listen. And then there will be later in that meeting a first read of that ordinance. There's no vote scheduled tonight. There'll probably be more discussion at that point. And then there's another chance for citizen comment at the end of the meeting. So there'll be a couple of times after the 7 o'clock meeting starts that you guys will have a chance to make any additional comments that you'd like to make. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get our Tuesday, February 21st workshop started. I'm going to do a quick roll call here first of the council and then the library board. So we've got Councilmember Dunn on Zoom.
Happy to be here.
Great. Councilmember Cargill.
Here.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Here.
Councilmember Van Orman.
Here.
Councilmember Spencer.
Present.
And Councilmember Sahlberg.
Here.
Okay, all present. And oh, sorry, how did I miss you? Oh, it's been a long day. Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem, you're here too.
All good.
All right, for the library board, Shauna Dean.
Here.
All right, Kim Jarrett's going to be late. Brad Hamblett.
Yep.
Bob Scadam.
Here.
And Teresa is on Zoom as well. I see her.
Hello.
Hello. All right, so we have, we will make sure we note when Kim arrives. And Jandy, our library director. I must have a blind spot over here.
Okay.
So, so I think what the thought was today, and again, I thought it was very important for us to be sitting at the same table interspersed. I didn't want this to come into, get into a us and them type of meeting. I want this to be a very cordial discussion and hopefully maybe a little bit of a brainstorming session. I'll moderate as best as I can. So if you guys can just do me the favor of just raising your hand to speak so I can make sure everybody's getting their fair shot and nobody's talking over each other, that'd be really appreciated. And I'm sure appreciated by the audience as well, so they can better follow the conversation. So I think we are going to kind of start off with Shauna, and if you want to do it, just through a high level of the binder that the library board gets when somebody is appointed and all of and just high level of what the trainings are that the library board goes through. And then I think the next step, I think you're going to go through the process on the policies.
Yeah. So when the library board members are appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council, one of the first things that happens is we get this giant binder. It's got information about the RCWs. It's got training about open government. So because all of our meetings are public, meetings and records laws about keeping all of those public meetings, ordinances, the ordinance in discussion, trainings on or information on the library bill of rights,
Make sure
freedom to read, intellectual freedom, and then the policies that the library board oversees for the management of the library, and just a breadth of other information. When we join, the expectation is that we're going to read through all of this, bring ourselves up to date on being a volunteer for a public position. And then because we're all sort of, it's just jump into whatever the business is at hand. And when I joined, gosh, it was April or May, I think, what was at hand was the collection review policy. That's what we were starting to review. And we're going to have Jandy go over what that process entails, because it is a very thorough process when we review the library policies.
So the library currently has 16 policies. Those policies range from the circulation policy, the patron privacy policy, the meeting room policy, the collection development policy. It's a myriad of different policies. The majority of our policies were last updated in 2019. And so the board last year started doing another review of all the policies. The policies that we started revising last year was the collection development policy and our meeting room policy, because we had developed a new study room at the library. When we are looking to establish or revise a policy, it's a very thorough process because we have to keep in mind the library has several First Amendment considerations that we have to take into account. Intellectual freedom. Another would be the right to assemble. Another one would be patron privacy. We have lots of legal things that we have to look at when we're developing and revising those policies. So we always make sure that we are doing a review of that and making sure that our policies are currently up to date with what case law or state code or RCW requires. So last year, we started a review of our collection development policy in March. We didn't finish that review until September. So that was several months that we were looking at that policy. In May, when we had some feedback from the council after the book reconsideration, council had some concerns about access to materials for minors. They had some concerns about our selection criteria. There was also just questions about our reconsideration policy in general. And so the board took those concerns that the council had to heart, as well as concerns that the citizens had when we were revising our policy. Something we found with access to minors is that there's pages and pages of case law that state that the library cannot restrict access to minors. So that's not something that we updated in the policy. We just reconfirmed that was something that we were committed to doing. Another thing that the council was concerned about was selection criteria, which is what myself and the other librarians look at when we're picking out a book for the library. We have a list of 13 things that we're looking at. And so we went into the policy and made several changes and clarifications to that policy to make sure that it's as rigorous as it needs to be. And so that's something that we look at with each book that we buy for the library. We don't just like flip through a catalog and be like, oh, I like the color of that book. You know, I'm going to buy that one. We look at several different things when we're making those considerations. The last thing that we did a lot of revision to was our reconsideration policy. We updated the form heavily that patrons fill out if they have a concern about a book. It used to just be 2 questions, and now it's a page and a half. And it really walks them through that process of making sure that we're getting all the information that we need and that we're helping them form a formal argument, for lack of a better word. And making sure that we have all the information that we need with that. Another thing we looked at was our process with the reconsideration. It goes from the librarian, is where a formal complaint is first made, and then it goes to the library board if a patron chooses to appeal the decision. Previously, the policy then went to the city council for appeal. Some of the feedback that we received from the council was, why is this coming to us? And so we looked into that part of the policy heavily, and we found that having a book challenge go to a political body is not a best practice, and that that's something that needed to be changed to keep the politics out of it. And that was something that we confirmed with legal in several meetings because we wanted to avoid possible lawsuit to the city. Do you guys have any questions about how we develop policies?
Doesn't look like we're seeing any.
We're just hoping that after you guys have a thorough understanding of all the time and effort that goes into these policy decisions and the revisions, that you will reconsider changing the ordinance.
Okay, thanks, Jandy. Thanks, Sean. I appreciate it. So I guess we open up now for discussion. Again, I will be, keeping track, so we have a fair disbursement of people making comments. Make sure we keep it cordial, non-personal. We are here to talk about process and policy, not individuals. All right, I just want to make sure you guys are all aware of that, because that has become an issue with regards to this topic in the past. So I will go ahead and open this up for further discussion. Just go ahead and raise your hand if you'd like to go first. Trustee
Well,
Hamblett.
Yes. I would love to make a comment. I would hope, having listened to Jandy's discussion about how policies are reviewed and gone over, that concerns about oversight might be reconsidered, because we are doing our due diligence in reviewing all of these policies. And our due diligence is to the city, to our patrons, to our library director, and to her staff. And so we keep that in mind as we review those policies, and Jandy brings them to us for review. And as you can see, this particular policy took 6 months. So that meant that we read, discussed, said, we need to look at this a little bit more or a little bit differently. And we read and we went through and we asked people to do their research, bring that back so that we can make the best decision going forward with this particular policy that was presented to the board at a council meeting along with our quarterly report earlier in the year.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Stolberg.
Yes, thank you. I've made some of my comments on the records before, and I'm going to share a couple of comments that we just received that I believe in. And so these are my words. All of us have seen these before. But this one came today. Libraries are magical places of learning and community. Please don't politicize these spaces. Let the library board continue its good work as it has since the city and the library began. There are other things that we will address later, but it's been said that we're only changing 5 words. But the truth is, and it's a quote from somebody, that a change in just one word can transform the entire meaning of a thing. And in this case, it has to do with the governance of our library.
Thank you. And I will note, since we're lacking show of hands, that I did not keep count, but hopefully along with all of you, you also read all of the comments that we came in by email from everybody. And, people want input from our citizens. You got it. I don't think I saw one email that came in opposition to, in support of the change. Everybody was supporting keeping the policy as it is with council, with the challenges stopping at the board, and for the board to retain the responsibility and authority that they have always had since the library was created in 2003 to set those policies. Go ahead, Sean.
Just in furtherance of the policies and the review process, when the policies were last updated in 2019, at that city council meeting, it was 2 lines. It was the library board is working on updating the policies. The librarian is reviewing them, and we're going through 2 to 3 a month. And more important, we've got the community needs assessment that everybody's talking about. That was it. And so it wasn't my understanding, and from talking to the city attorney, that it was a concern that the policies needed to come to city council. They hadn't in the most recent, and the advice that the city attorney gave Jandy and us was the council has financial oversight, not management oversight, and we took that into consideration when we were reviewing the policies.
Agreed. Okay,
All right, Mayor, I'll jump in.
okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. So I put a lot of thought into this. I prepared a statement that I've been thinking about for a while for the group. I didn't want to misquote any numbers or any information that I've looked into. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to read from my statement for a second and then have a few responses to your comments from earlier. October of 2003 is when the ordinance 119 was signed. The city council decided that the city would provide a municipal library for the use of residents and non-residents alike. At that time, the city council could have chosen a different path by attempting to include a regional library, the library into a regional library group, but it did not do that. I can only assume, I wasn't there, that the city council at that time wanted to set up a library structure like many other municipal libraries throughout the state with city council driven priorities based on what the citizens were asking for or wanting. So I bring that up because I think there is some, we're trying to take all of the RCW, but it doesn't all apply to our situation. To what the original council of this city intended is just my opinion. Okay, I'll continue. The term municipal means relating to a city or town or its governing body. I've stated in the past that all the departments within the city are subject to its governing body regarding ordinance, resolution, and policy. That concept has been applied and accepted since the beginning of the city. Recently, the MRSC has published an article identifying the difference between general purpose public library and a municipal library like ours, stating that they are departments of the city. It even calls out Liberty Lake as one of the cities that operate this way, along with several others. The ordinance change, in my mind, has nothing to do with book bans or politics. For as long as I've been in this council, I've never, ever felt it was a political play or discussion in this room, in this chambers. I've never felt that. I have yet to hear anyone on this council say they want to be in the business of banning books. I've never heard that. Yet, it's the headline for the newspaper and the TV stations. This ordinance change does not imply that the library board or the librarian cannot be trusted or cannot be allowed to do their job. I believe the efforts of the council have fully supported the library and the trustees by approving a yearly budget that really exceeds the guidance in the current ordinance. If you look at section 3B, talks about what percentage of our tax revenue will go to the library, and we have exceeded that several years in a row, and I have no issues with that. It goes to a great cause and it's a great service. And not long ago, this council approved the purchase of a larger facility per that library assessment. So I feel like we are supporting the library and its efforts. So simply put, the ordinance change clarifies the city council approve policy changes proposed by the board. It does not say the city council will impose policy. It does not say that we're going to create policy, and it's not going to. It doesn't say we're going to request changes to how the library operates. The approval process, along with ordinances and resolutions, is the sole purpose of this city council and future councils. So at the end of this, some are going to disagree, some will agree with my viewpoint. As a council member, it's not personal. It's just not. I believe the council procedures regarding the business of the city should it be administered the same across the board within all areas of the city services? I believe the mayor, the council, the library board, all of our people that are on our various commissions, our head directors, we're fully capable of coming together in all capacities for the good of the citizens. While we may not always agree, it certainly doesn't change the respect I have for everybody at this table, in the audience tonight, everybody that participates in the process of operating this city. And I'm pretty certain we can have positive discussions going forward. So that was my statement that I had drafted based on what was said earlier. And there's been some responses to, I've heard, well, we'll bog down the city council with policy addressing policy changes. It appears like most everybody else are other policies within the city, it's visited every 2 to 3, maybe 4 years. And it's not all one big gulp at a time. What I heard just now is more than I've heard since I've been on the council on how you get there, how you make decisions. And I'm not here to say I disagree with any of it right now. But the part that's missing for me, when I have a neighbor say to me, Phil, what's going on down at the library? I don't know, because I wasn't part of even the briefing on how you came up with policy or how you changed it. So kind of puts me as an elected official representing the citizens of the city at a little bit of a disadvantage, because I don't have an answer. And like every other department or whatever you want to call them, when we get a report or when we get a policy change, or if it's budget related or ordinance or resolution, 9 times out of 10, it's here's what we want to do. Here's how we got there. Are you good with that, council? And the answer is usually, yeah, that sounds great. That's why we have you on the team, is to do all the hard lifting. It's certainly in my mind, and I won't speak for the other council members, it is not a power grab. It is none of that. It is, I have no desire to get into what you just talked about. Seriously, I don't. And I'm appreciative that you're all here to work through those processes. However, it's a department within the city, and I just feel they should be treated equally. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Kurtz.
Is the police department,
Right here.
are the policies that the police department put forward reviewed by the council?
No.
So when
Sorry,
we're
what
talking,
was the question?
are the
policy.
policies of the police department reviewed by the council?
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
So I did a little bit of homework on that. You're right. We have no authority to address state law enforcement. It's done at the state level by state legislatures. However, everything else related to the police department, we approve. Everything.
And that seems like it's similar to what we do at the library too, like they have some state standards as well. But I hear that we need to be consistent, but there already is an inconsistency there. And I think I'm trying to figure
We
out,
can't override state legislature.
I'm not asking to, I'm just pointing out that there's a difference. There's one department that we do not currently oversee their policies. What was said was that we oversee all of them except this one. So I'm just pointing out that that's not accurate.
Okay.
What I also hear is that, putting the policies before us so we can just say, hey, that's great. Are we just asking to be able to rubber stamp what they're putting out, or are we going to critically evaluate that? Because I think that just putting in this, that we're supposed to be here to review all the policies and procedures, but not make any recommendations for change, which I think that perhaps we would make some recommendations for change. And one of my questions is, so if the board, who has statutory authority already to make the policies and procedures for the library, then has to ask the council for approval, this sets up this perpetual loop that has no resolution. So we are essentially becoming the board of the library because we approve the policies of the library. If they put forward something that we disagree with, what happens? we have to write a policy for that because we don't have one now. But what happens? What's the appeal procedure? Who does that go to? What are we going to do with that? So it does bring up a lot of questions. And I think that one of the things we talked about is that we have a lot of people here who run departments, and we have people here who run the city. And I just disagree with the fact, or the proposal that we need to manage the policies of the library. We have people here who have master's degrees. We have people who have studied and done work to be a part of the library board and have put in a great deal of time and effort, which we have not thanked them for. We have done other things that have not been, I think, in my mind, professional. We don't know. I don't know anything about the library. I go to the library. I don't know anything to make an informed decision on whether the policies that they're putting in place are good. I wouldn't know anything about the police department either, unless I really spent a lot of time doing that. And my role as a city council member is to pass laws and to provide a budget for the city. So we are, while I understand the minimization that is only 5 words, we are way overstepping into a lane that is not ours. And so I want to figure out.
As much as I hate to do it, I need to ask you guys to not do that.
I want to
Thanks.
figure out what the end result is here. We're here to talk tonight. We're here to come up hopefully with a compromise, something different than what is out there now. And so we need to be talking about, I think, more of the in-depth stuff. So for the council members that voted to bring this forward, what do you want to see happen? Why do you want this change? Bill has talked about his change and why he's asked it, but I haven't heard from the other 3, and I really would like to.
Real quick, I do have Councilmember Dunn's hand up on Zoom. Councilmember Dunn, it's your turn.
Thanks. I just wanted, something that Annie had brought forward as an observation really resonated with me, which is the notion that for us as a council to make a consenting gesture, that is to approve or reject, for example, it does actually belie a very deep knowledge and a profound understanding and further consideration of precisely what actions have been taken. So to ask for the ability to approve as consent without a profound and deep understanding of what's being done is, to me, dereliction of our role as council members. I'm not in favor of the amendment to the ordinance.
Thank you. All right. Who'd like to go next?
Go
Go ahead, John.
I have an observation that I've wanted to ask, and I don't want to interrupt any of the other council members, but I'm just curious, how many people on the council are library members? And do you use it regularly? I mean, I use it weekly.
Electronically.
But that's use, and you're accessing books, and you know what books are there, and you know what is, I mean, is it? I use it regularly. I'm in the library industry. I've used libraries my whole life. If it's not a resource you use, or if it's not a resource that affects you, I'm just wondering what information you're basing policy changes on.
Here's from everybody one time.
Sure. Okay, so we haven't heard yet from council member Van Orman, Cargill, Spencer, or trustees Bob Scadam.
I'll chime
Who
in,
am I missing?
Mayor.
Yes, go
Yeah.
ahead. Councilmember Spencer.
Well, I'm just curious around the dais here, who has a master's in finance? How about human resources? Okay, we're being told that we need to have a master's or be an expert on one topic, but not on others that we as a council weigh in on. That's including people who are for or against this change to the ordinance. I don't recall any of us having been accused of being fascists when we've weighed in on policies of finance or human resources, as we've done. I just want to dispense with the myth that, again, I can't speak for the rest of the council, I am not in favor of banning books. And for me, this has nothing to do with banning books. I would echo what Mayor Pro Tem Foyer said. I think it's just good business. It's good business practice to be able to take one last look at the policy as those who are accountable to the voters, to say, yes, we think this is good for the community, or no. For myself, before every council meeting, I prepare extensively in researching every item on the agenda. So I don't think it's outside of the realm of my ability to make, decisions when information is brought before me and we have a conversation. Again, when I interviewed for the vacancy on the council, I stated the fact that I love councils. I love the ability to, for us to come together and have a conversation. There has been times when I have come to a council meeting and have felt like this is the way I want to move forward. And after counseling together with the other members of this council, I've changed my mind. I think that is the value of a council. I don't think there's anything bad about having another set of eyes on a policy. I know that the library board works extensively to create policies just as all the other departments do in our city. And I value that because I don't want to be doing that. I'm a sitting council member. I'm not interested if I'm not doing that someday, maybe I will be interested in sitting on a board or sitting on a commission of some sort. But I would know at that point that I'm creating something that will ultimately go to the council for them to sign off. And like Mayor Pro Tem Foyer said, 9 times out of 10, we're going to look at it and we're going to say, yeah, we trust your expertise. So those are just a few of my thoughts.
Thank you. Now we still have a couple people we haven't heard from. Councilmember Van Orman or Cargill, would you like to weigh in?
Sure.
Okay, Councilmember Van Orman, go ahead.
I probably have one of the most unique sitting here at the table because I was here at the very beginning, sitting as not only on the governance study group, forming and comparing all the different services of cities in the very beginning to being the first city council and the second mayor. When we formed the library in 2003, it was amazing. People came together as volunteers, looking through their cupboards, grabbing out their books, going out purchasing new books, finding library shelves from Central Valley School District. And some went ahead and probably bought a few too many books and got themselves haywire, but hey, it was an awesome library starting out. We didn't have that choice because the library district didn't want to give us a space here in Liberty Lake. That's why we chose to go on our own. Yes, we have a library that is a municipal library. It's part of our services that we offer. And part of those services we pay for. It's not like a library district that we have to pay as citizens 50 cents extra on top of what our taxes are already. We're very, very lucky that way. And we have a phenomenal group of citizens sitting right here around this table that I know that you guys take everything very, very seriously. When I brought my voice up, it's because of how we used to do it. That's how we used to, when we started and formed the library, we always had the policies coming towards us. I could probably go at home and look through because I'm a pack rat and find it right now. This wasn't about a power grab. This was about giving a voice to our citizens and making sure that they did have a voice. Now, not all of the council members voted one way or the other when the particular book came up. Some voted, to keep the library book in play. The only 2 that voted were myself and Councilmember Cargill. He had his reasons, I had mine. I was giving a voice to those people that were telling me that they didn't want to see that particular book on the shelf. So I'm hoping that as we have all come together, sitting board member to council member, that we can come up with some great solutions. And I think this was a good play. I'm really glad that we've got this workshop going. Thank you.
Go ahead, Bob, Council. Trustee Scadam.
Vehicles.
I don't think it is. Yeah.
There it is.
You are?
Okay, I'm new to the party here, so I've been not making comments or jumping in to make comments, but I wanted to echo a couple things that I've heard. And a piece of, Shauna went through all of the things that we go through when we become a trustee, and I became a trustee 6 weeks ago. You all approved me. And I told you at that time that I have, been involved in libraries, my entire life as a patron, not as somebody who, was in charge of policy or administration or things like that, but as a patron. And that's one of the first things I always do when we move, and we moved a lot, is go get a library card. And Mayor didn't, or whoever asked the question didn't ask how many of the trustees had a library card, but I have one. And, the reason I wanted to be on this board of trustees was I saw all of the things that we were doing as a library, and I saw all of the things that we were going to be when this council approved the purchase of a new building. Because our current building, needs a lot of space. We need more space. We do a lot of things relative to the community and programs that are important. And you can see that within the context of the comments that have come in from the citizens that we've all seen. As the new kid on the block, one of the things that I'm seeing here are, it's almost paraphrase, Paul Newman in Cool Hand Luke, what we have here is a failure to communicate. I heard from Mayor Pro Tem Follier that he hadn't heard enough about how the policies were created. I heard from others that this has become, if this is not about policy, this is about, oversight. This is about how the council maintains its legislative role in this community. And I also think there's a way, as Councilmember Van Orman said, I hope there's a way that we can find some kind of middle ground. I don't think the 5 words that were inserted in the potential ordinance at a time when we hadn't had a chance to have this roundtable and this group meeting was the right way to approach it, because it felt like whether or not it's a power grab or whether or not it's a First Amendment issue, it felt like that those of us that were on the Board of Trustees were sitting there watching this thing just roll forward without input. So I thank the mayor and the council and the rest of my trustees for us having the chance to get together and talk about this. I don't think the ordinance as currently amended is the right way to approach it, but my assumption is that if we've made this step, which is to sit here and hear almost everybody's opinion about it, and heard, what the community thinks about the library and the structure, I think we need to step back and say, what is the right way to approach this? What is the right language? Where does it go in the ordinance? Or is it another ordinance, or is it a resolution that we all agree just, to communicate when these things come up, as opposed to having it mandated on either body?
Thank you for your comments. I know we're going to try to wrap this piece of the discussion up by about 1:45, so we can make sure we can rearrange things. I will, just as a note, just remind everybody that, yes, the council does sign off on the personnel manual. They sign off on the financial policies, but there are so many more policies that run the city that the council never sees. You know, there's policies for planning, there's policies for the golf course. So, you know, this could be a slippery slope, but I just want to remind everybody that no, the council does not see every policy that gets in place to make sure that things run smoothly and efficiently here. And in some previous discussions I had with somebody, I'm having trouble turning my page here. So and this is something the council can continue with on the discussion when we come to the first read ordinance at the 7 o'clock meeting. But the effect of those 5 words that were added to the ordinance affects not only the policy. Actually, the sentence doesn't even say policy. It says adopt such bylaws, rules and regulations for the guidance of the Board of Trustees and for the use of the Liberty Lake Public Library, subject to city council approval. While our other commissions set their own bylaws and the council doesn't review or approve those. So this proposed change goes so much farther than the policy. It's talking about the rules and regulations and bylaws. I would propose, again, talk about it further during the first read of the ordinance, that wording needs a lot more work if in fact this is going to go forward. So.
I'll save my comments.
Okay, thank you. All right, does anybody, go ahead, Brad.
Thank you. I would like to ask a question. If the policy had not been changed at all in our presentation in October, I don't think we'd be here today. If it had stayed the same and the council had been the final say in a book review, I don't think we would be here today. But we are here today because the board, through their due diligence and research, through the library director and other members, found that it was best to remove that option. And if you look at everything that has been printed about libraries and library boards, they're intentionally made to be independent of a political body, intentionally to keep books out of politics. And I believe that's a very important thing for us to maintain. I would like to ask the council to really reconsider this whole ordinance thing. And I believe that when the library was first set up, and if you read the ordinance, that the city council recognized the importance of the library board maintaining its importance, if you read that the way it was printed in the very first place. I know the council has right to make rules and ordinance or change ordinances, but the RCW even refers, we've talked about this many times, refers to governing. Library boards are the governing body of the library. If this policy goes through, then we become a non-governing body as a board of trustees. Thank you.
All right, there's no more. Okay,
I
Shauna,
have
and then
one
we'll wrap
quick-
up real quick.
Just quick. And it's to mirror what you said. The 5 words of with the approval of the council does not make the change that the city council would want. So when the ordinance is read in the next meeting, I hope that I won't have a say in that. I hope that there will be some discussion on what really, is it just policies that you want to review? Is it the management of the library? Because there's 2 separate sections, one about and anything else needed for the management of the library. That's not given oversight with that change. Bylaws, rules and regulations, policies isn't even mentioned there. So I would hope that that the city council would take a little more time to consider what the actual wording of the change of the ordinance is, if this is going to be continued.
Okay, thank you. Kim, anything before we break? Okay.
Support what the other trustees.
Perfect. Teresa, real quick, so I haven't heard from you on Zoom. We got just about another minute or so.
Yes, I'm sorry, and I'm homesick, everybody, so I hope you can hear me okay.
And
I just wanted to mirror what Brad was saying, just so everybody has clarification. It wasn't until our October 18th report to the city, which we stated the policy change to the book reconsideration policy, removing counsel as given, with working with a lawyer, that it was then presented at that meeting by a couple council members that we review that ordinance. So I am hearing a lot of speak about we're not in the business of banning books. However, within that 45 to an hour meeting, that's kind of the conversation that came around to now where we're at with this ordinance change. So I just want to make sure that when council considers keeping the ordinance or doing the first read at the meeting at 7, that we consider the fact that we want to understand that it's not reactionary to what happened in the October 18th meeting and what that would look like for the board going forward.
thank you, Teresa. Okay, guys, so we have time to get rid of the tables and set everybody back up.
Thank you for having this meeting.
Thank you
Appreciate
guys
it.
all for being here. So we're going to break until 7 o'clock. We will be back and start our regular meeting at that time.
What it would be like. The preference and the.
Okay, everybody. All right, everybody, welcome to our Tuesday, February 21st, 2023 regular city council meeting. We are here obviously in person at City Hall, but we also have our remote option on Zoom. So welcome to everybody here in our audience and welcome to everybody who has joined us by Zoom. We appreciate your participation. We're going to go ahead and start off with the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'd please join me. Dear Father, thank you so much for bringing us all here together, both in person and remotely. It's so wonderful to see such a caring community wanting to be involved and participate in their government. This is what it is all about. So please guide them as they interact, guide our council. Please watch over our first responders here locally and around the world. And please, please make sure they go to sleep at night in peace. And on a personal note, I would just like to ask you to be with the Thomas and Schroeder families tonight, as we lost one of our uncles and fairly suddenly. Just pray that you're there waiting for him with open arms and with our other past family members there to greet him as well. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. All right, we'll officially call the meeting to order. I don't hit this very often. There we go. All right, we'll start off with the roll call. Councilmember Cargill.
Present.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Present.
Councilmember Van Orman.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Foliar.
Here.
Council members. You guys move. Oh, because Dan's not here. Councilmember Spencer.
Present.
Councilmember Dunn.
Here, definitely.
And Councilmember Solberg.
Here.
Great. Thank you, everybody. We will move now on to agenda approval. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Just have one amendment to propose to council tonight. And that is item 14, changing the resolution number to 23-243. Just a little bit of a typo there. So
All right.
that was a motion.
All right, do we have a
Second.
second? We have a second by Councilmember Spencer. All in favor? Please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have corrected the resolution number 14. Mayor, what's your name? Councilmember Kurtz?
Madam Mayor, I would like to amend the agenda to move item 15A before item 9 on the agenda.
That would be to move the first read ordinance and the discussion to before workshop discussions. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Solberg. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. We will be moving the ordinance on 15A first read to before workshop discussions. All right, not hearing any other suggested changes. Do we have a motion to move the amended agenda?
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Solberg. All those in favor of approving the amended agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. We have ourselves an agenda. All right, so we are on item 6 already, citizen comments. So just, I know I addressed this with the folks who are with us, for the workshop. So our citizen comment period, at our council meetings is strictly comment only. There's no dialogue back and forth with the council, but if there is something that needs to be answered, we will make sure that we have your correct contact information so we can respond, accordingly with the proper staff member. There's a 3-minute time limit. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with those in the chambers. If there's anybody here in chambers who would like to speak, who hasn't, there are some yellow sheets by the door over there. If you'd like to fill one out and get it to Kelsey, a lovely young woman here at the end of the table, and she will make note and get it to me. And then after that, we'll go to anybody on Zoom who would like to make a comment. If you could just send a media chat to Todd Henderson, our meeting host, he will keep track of that for me. And then after that, our city clerk has some written comments to read into the record. So we will go ahead and start out with Lynn Atkins. Welcome.
Okay, Catherine Lynn Atkins. I live in Rocky Hill Park. And I'd like to speak regarding amending the ordinance 119. Certain council members have expressed that they are accountable to the voters, so they should be the ones who do the final approval on policy, and that the board members are not elected officials. This is how it should be, not elected officials, because it sets them apart from political pressures, which, by the way, is the same reason the Supreme Court justices are not elected officials. To quote supremecourt.gov, it is to ensure an independent judiciary and to protect judges from partisan pressures. The library board and director are charged with balancing competing interests and to avoid favoring the majority at the expense of our individual rights. It was said 9 times out of 10, we will approve. Well, it's what you don't approve that keeps me up at night. What happens if you don't approve? Then you send it back with your red line changes until it reads the way you want it to read. If the council has the ability to censor or alter library policy, it amounts to a violation of First Amendment rights and intellectual freedom for our citizens. This seems to be about power over policy at the expense of our individual rights. I'd like to also share a quote with you from the website of US Congress. The Constitution expressly protects certain rights and liberties for individuals from government interference. To quote the ALA, we're seeing more indirect efforts to control what's available to the community or to put in laws that would direct how the library staff collects books. Democracy and libraries go hand in hand. It was John F. Kennedy who said libraries should be open to all except the censor. We must know all the facts and hear all the alternatives and listen to all the criticisms. Let us welcome controversial books and controversial authors, for the Bill of Rights is the guardian of our security as well as our liberty. And it was Franklin Delano Roosevelt who said about libraries that they are essential to the functioning of a democratic society, because the contemporary conflict touches the integrity of scholarship, the freedom of the mind, and even the survival of culture. And libraries are the great symbol of the freedom of the mind. In closing, I would ask that you keep the approval of policies and services regarding intellectual freedom, the collection policy, book challenges under the library board and the director, and not under a political body such as yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. So our cat in the ceiling has made, oh, there he goes. So I apologize for any distractions. So we've been kind of chasing this cat around the ceiling. He just popped his head up here. So don't let it alarm you if he happens to jump down. We'll try to catch him.
Especially you, Todd.
Well, he obviously knows it's a lot warmer in here, so smart cat.
Same one I saw when I walked in. That's the same one I saw when I
Is it? Okay. All right. So we'll thank the cat for a little bit of joviality here today. All right, we have Joe Pitt up next.
Can we remind the audience no applauding?
Yes,
Please.
thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, as Councilmember Cargill reminded me, there is not to be any applauding, booing, anything like that during or after our citizen comments, if you could, please. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. I'll give you nothing to applaud about. I'm here to speak also, as we all are, against the library ordinance. My name is Joe Pitt. I've lived in Liberty Lake for 5 years now. You know, if you sat through the work session, you heard that the library was formed by ordinance 20 years ago. And so you have to ask yourself, why are we here tonight, 20 years later? Why, if it's operated so efficiently, so wonderfully, why are we making this change? Well, in the spokesman, one of the council members was saying, well, you know, we should have accountability for the citizens before the elected people. That's sort of ironic since 3 of the council members aren't elected. They've been appointed. It seems like a weird way to do it. And they said, no, this isn't about banning books, but of course, this is about banning books. Once there's a pathway established that goes around the library and around the trustees, you're going to ban books because you can. You'll have the political will to do it. Because it's apparent that this council, having heard a book challenge last year, was not really happy with the results. But now that the political winds have changed with some of the appointees, they feel like they have the votes to basically put this down our throats. The council approves things. 2 weeks ago, they approved $100,000 in what I think it was 38,000 for a snowplow, 73,000 for a mower. You think they read the owner's manual or asked for a test drive? No, they depended on people in the city who had the best interests of the city at heart to make the best decisions. But now they want to micromanage what books we have in our library and question the validity of the people who are called trustees. They apparently can't trust them by their very name. So when some nitpicker shows up and says, here's a list of 50 books I object to in the library, what's the council going to do? You're going to read them all? I kind of doubt it. I suspect you'll go with a recommendation of some of the lists of books that are banned out there on the internet. The American Library Association has a bunch of them. Kill a Mockingbird, Mice and Men, the Holy Bible. The council will claim that only a single book has been brought before them for over all these years. But again, this is going to become a standing agenda item every few weeks if there's an easy pathway. Is this why we elected these folks to debate whether Captain Underpants should be in the library? I spent 40 years in the newspaper industry. I know what censorship looks like, and this is what it looks like. You don't have to go to Russia or China. It's alive right here in Liberty Lake. Now it's just disguised as an ordinance. You know, the library and its trustees have a logical methodology and it works. Instead, now we're going to have these political decisions made, and that's just not the way to go. I don't doubt that there are plenty of books in the library that I'll never read, and maybe a few I'll find objectionable, but I'm okay with that. It'd be a really boring world if we all thought alike. Thank you.
Thank you. Guys need to please hold the applause. Linda Ball.
Okay, those were tough acts to follow. I'm Linda Ball. I live in Liberty Lake, have for 5 years. Washington libraries fill a need for people of all races, genders, sexual preference, and religion to access information they otherwise could not, whether it be to use a computer or check out a book of interest to them or take your little to a story time. Librarians are professionals educated in library sciences. They're trained to select a wide variety of content that reflect diverse interests, experiences, and perspectives. I don't think they cherry pick books based on their personal beliefs. Choice of content should not be dictated by politicians or special interest groups. According to a recent American Library Association poll, 71% of respondents across the political spectrum oppose book banning. It said that most respondents appreciate their libraries and are confident libraries make good decisions, offering a variety of diverse viewpoints and subjects. So what's wrong with that? To those of you on this council who feel the need to control the Liberty Lake Library, exactly what is your agenda? What are you afraid of? Above all, the First Amendment of the United States guarantees U.S. citizens freedom of speech and of the press. If the big worry is a young person reading something you feel is inappropriate for their age, if the child's parents feel it's appropriate, it's none of your business. I'm a baby boomer, and I can assure you my long deceased parents skirted around the talk as much as possible. They were the greatest generation. They didn't talk about that stuff. I am thankful for the sex education classes and materials I got in elementary school. And I took it a step further and I read everything you ever wanted to know about sex, but was afraid to ask, so I could get the answers. Banning books is forcing a narrow point of view on whatever the topic. What you're trying to do is censorship and inserting yourself into conversations that should be private or within a family. Think about what you're doing, unless your goal is just to make headlines. So I urge you not to pass this unnecessary ordinance. It's just ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Jerry Bishop is next.
Well, I'll confess right from the very start, I'm not nearly as eloquent as the people that have spoken before me. But I would like to remind everybody of a few important points, and one that has been brought up today is accountability. From my understanding, the library board is appointed and approved by the mayor and the city council. They also have the ability, I believe, to remove board members if they feel that they are not properly doing their job. So there's already accountability. I think this bill change is totally redundant and unnecessary. The library board has been functioning perfectly well for a number of years, and I see no reason why we need to make a change. We've been assured that it's not about censorship. Nobody wants to ban books. Then why are we here? Why are we here and why now? I would suggest that it might have something to do with the movement by a few individuals to ban books over this last year. And that's the real reason for this. I am totally opposed to any kind of censorship. And I am totally opposed to this power grab, because that's exactly what it is. This is a power grab to take control into the hands of politicians rather than trained library professionals. I'm totally against it.
Thank you, guys. All right, next we have Judy Hunton. Did I say that right?
I'm just making a personal statement. I don't have facts or figures or any quotations, and I'm too short for the microphone.
There you go.
My name is Judy Hunton, and I'm in 1995. My late husband and I moved to town with our 3 school-aged kids, in part so he could walk to work at HP, but mainly because we could sense the potential of Liberty Lake. At the first hint that a library could be started, I enthusiastically joined in. There was nothing wrong with the county libraries, but there was no way a kid could walk or ride their bike to the Otis Orchards or main branches. Everyone, young, old, mobile or not, must be able to get to the library on their own. We all need and deserve the ability to be informed, delighted, and challenged by new information, to have our questions asked and answered, and to experience the serendipity of looking for one item and finding something different and better. Every member of the family went through periods when they had questions and uncertainties that were helped by free access to the library. So I was one of those people collecting and sorting donated books in the basement of the Greenstone building and helping early patrons find and check out materials. What we volunteers were working toward is a reality today, a professional library director and a dedicated, thoughtful library board in a well-funded central location, operating outside of fashion, influence, or politics. Our library is working for all Liberty Lake citizens now, just as it has for many years. I brought a couple of talismans with me tonight. One is the library card that lives in my wallet all the time, and the other one is my Community Library Council of Liberty Lake ID badge, which means I'm either a hoarder or this means a lot to me. Both show how important intellectual liberty and free access to information are to me. I'm old enough to get away with a couple of vintage aphorisms. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Do not make this ill-considered and unnecessary change to the ordinance now or in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have Abby Schuster, and Kat is making his way across.
Mayor, I think that cat's distressed and wants to get down. We might want to facilitate it and take a couple minutes.
How, I don't know how we,
Well, don't let the cops know.
yeah, got your stun guns out there, Mr. Officers? No, kidding, kidding.
Problem is, I don't. Bites.
Yeah, if to say if he's wild, we may not want him down. He found his way in. I assume he'll find his way back out.
Or he'll jump on something.
Well, he was actually in the vestibule ceiling earlier when I got here, so he apparently has a way in and out. So as much as I hate to say, let's leave him for now.
Come down.
I think
That's
that might
right.
Be the common ground that we all need tonight.
I think so. Let's help the cat. All right, welcome, Abby. Good to
Okay,
see you.
thank you. So my name's Abby Schuster. I've been a resident of Liberty Lake for 18 years now. And I'm not nearly as articulate as those who have preceded me, but I just wanted to address a couple of things that have come up tonight. In the meeting that preceded this, there was a comment or several comments made that insinuated that maybe the library board was trying to do things in a less than transparent way. And I would just like to say that the Library Board of Trustees meetings and their minutes are public and available. And as a citizen, I have actually attended those meetings. There's no reason that anyone in this community couldn't be fully informed as to how the library board was operating. I trust the expertise and knowledge of the library board, who are appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council. I personally want a variety of worldviews and expertise present in our library, whether I agree with them or not. And as a parent, I have both the right and the responsibility to oversee what my children read, not the city council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Which is on my library receipt, so I know when to return my book.
All right, Jim Letelier, did I say that right?
Hello, I am Jim Letelier. I live in Meadowwood Glen. I don't normally come to city council meetings to make a comment, but this Liberty Lake government has no business meddling in the library, none whatsoever. This is a slippery slope we're gonna go down here. Maybe some of the board members here, I've heard a few comments that maybe, well, we're not gonna ban any books or anything like that. Okay. Maybe one of these days, we're gonna get enough people on this board that will. And I don't want a government telling me what I can or cannot read. This is kind of extreme. But there's governments around the world that do decide what books and what books people can or cannot read. And Iran, North Korea, Russia, some nations in South America. And it can happen. It can happen in a local government. That's where it starts. And I just want to say that I do not think that this city government has any business whatsoever in determining what this library board decides is in that library. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have Jeff Dean.
Sorry, I'm getting older hearing in my glasses now. Good evening. My name is Jeff Dean. I'm a resident and a voter in Liberty Lake. I'm a senior executive. I'm a dad. And I've been volunteering with kids in community for about 20 years. Tonight under the agenda, item 15, you're poised to move to codify the city council's control over the Liberty Lake Library's bylaws, rules, and regulations. Start off by saying, while it's well within your right to do so, you don't have to. So something to think about. It's worth noting that this is something that has not been an issue from the library's founding 20 years ago. So let's be clear. This is not an issue of ensuring accountability to voters or of creating equity in governance. That's spin. If you're going to ban books, tell us you're going to ban books and go do it. It's cover and we see through it. This issue arose over a move to ban an award-winning book supported by the American Library Association because its topic and presentation offended some in the community. 2 of you here voted to ban it. It's worth noting that libraries have long connected us to the world and to differing and challenging ideas. They offer access to everything from Mein Kampf to Mao's Little Red Book, from Salinger's A Catcher in the Rye to enormous selection of Harlequin romances detailing any number of salacious acts. My mom spent a lot of time reading them. The library gives access to ideas. It does not filter them. It expands and enlightens. It's an equal opportunity offender. But what offends me may not offend you and vice versa. Which brings me to my question for the council. Is it your job to decide what should offend me? To bring division and culture wars to our community? Is that what you're doing? If you're going to do it, just say you're doing it because we see through it. That offends me. Look, I believe you guys are all good people. I believe you go home and care for your families. You're trying to do what's right. But don't we have more important things in our city to focus on? I believe 5 of you are up for a re-election soon, and the 6th will be sooner or later. Most of you ran unopposed, and several of you were appointed without voter confirmation. So in the interest of accountability to voters, I'm going to ask each of you tonight to consider and to publicly affirm tonight where you stand. Are you comfortable changing an ordinance at the insistence of those who wish to ban books? The voters of our city see what's happening. We're going to remember who the book banners are.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have Mark Saba. Did we lose Mark? There he is. Which hat are you wearing tonight, Mr. Saba?
I'm going to change the subject tonight. My name is Mark Saba. I am a resident of Liberty Lake. I'm on the board of directors for Winter Glow. And last week I made a presentation for a storage building for Winter Glow. Comments were very positive. I left here pretty much on cloud 9, thinking that it was going to be brought up at the meeting tonight for approval. It's my understanding there's some questions that need to be answered prior to being approved. If you need any additional information, you got my email address or you want my phone number, I can give that to you. Contact me. I am wide open to let you know any information that you need. And because I'd just love to get this thing put to bed so we can proceed and get it built. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll go.
Todd Evans is a comment.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask him. So Todd, are there any, is there anybody on Zoom who'd like to make a comment? Tim Olson, we'll hit you first. Welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Thank you very much. A few city council members tonight have stated that changing this ordinance is not about banning books. I respect that. Nobody wants to admit to banning books. But what happens when a slim minority of those in our city want to restrict book access that they don't agree with? I'm not an attorney, but I believe that you cannot create ordinances to substitute good parenting, making tough decisions. What's going to happen when we see a restriction of access to minors on books that the council doesn't believe appropriate? Ordinances don't replace crucial conversations you have in your home with your children and what is appropriate and what isn't. The trustees, with the guidance of many resources over a period of time, crafted several ordinances being inclusive to all members of our community. Although there don't appear to be any finance majors on the library board of trustees as shown, they're also not motivated by politics. These are thoughtful, hardworking, caring members of our community making difficult decisions for the benefit of the many, though they may personally not agree with it. We have an amazing group of library trustees. As I reflect on the issue tonight, I can't get out of my head that there are several freedoms we have in our country being challenged these days. Some are even new and were not challenged when put in place decades ago. Some decisions are already being ruled on by the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, it seems like the citizens' rights in our country have been politicized by extremists on both sides of the aisle. This needs to stop. The Library Board of Trustees has shown how they methodically have reviewed their decision to be inclusive of all members of society without a political bias. The City Council of Liberty Lake took an oath, and I believe the first part of that oath was to uphold the Constitution of the United States. I am not in favor of the change of this ordinance. Let the trustees do their job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. All right, and next up, we have DG Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, and people in the community. Oftentimes I use myself as an example in order to make a point, and sometimes it's not very clear. This time I'd like to use the ruling of Brown versus the Board of Education. If it were not for Brown versus the Board of Education, let's just call it our library. Then I would not have received my degrees in higher education. I would not speak 4 foreign languages, be a Braille transcriber and a sign linguist. Those things would not have happened. And had they happened, it would have been slow going. This is really not about libraries or the Board of Trustees. This is about the absence of intellectual understanding. When we ban books, do we really believe a child cannot access this information vis-a-vis Google, Snapchat, their next door neighbor's friend who learned it from another friend, who got it from another friend, who got it from their parents, overhearing them talk at night or during the day? Everything accessible in a library is accessible by all means of transmission of information. While I feel for the parents who really are struggling with keeping their children as innocent for as long as possible, that is admirable and that is wonderful, and that's what we want for our children. But let's be real. Children learn more from what they come with out of the library. They learn more from the streets, their community. So taking books out or making libraries seem as though they're the bad place to go, because if we can't remove the books, then who knows what our children will learn? As Tim Olson and others have said, the parents, we have to take it upon ourselves to be more proactive if we aren't, and to ensure that if we're banning a book or asking someone to ban a book, that they cannot find that book anywhere else. The book in question is on the internet. All of the pictures are on the internet, but the education comes from the parent. And the parent must educate the child where that child says, yes, Johnny, I know you know about it, but I don't want to know. I'll wait until my parents tell me. There are members on the board who want to change this and take over the power. It'll only be a fleeting moment before someone else demands you do something else. We can't have that done. We can't accept it. We must not accept it. I hope you accept this as a consideration to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I will ask if there's anybody additional in the audience who's turned in a yellow slip. Okay, go ahead and if you can fill out a slip for us to have later and just introduce yourself at the microphone. Okay. Oh. I don't see it. Oh, Joy? I guess your paper's stuck. I apologize. That's totally my fault. I should have noticed that. More is my maiden name.
No problem. Well, paper stuck, probably like my voice. I'm not real articulate like all these folks, but I want to say the book out loud. In your workshop, the reason I'm here is genderqueer. No one has said this book out loud. That's what started all this, was they brought up a book, genderqueer. And I would like to say I'm in a Facebook group, the Liberty Lake Community Facebook group. And a few months ago, someone posted in there, they said, I want to move to Liberty Lake. I have a son or daughter, I can't remember which, that is gay. Is this community open in receiving gay people? And I will tell you, there's all this wonderful, like, yes, we are. When you're seeking to do a power grab, city council seeking to do a power grab, and 2 people voted to censor a book that has to do with gay rights, with somebody's right to come out and say, hey, this is how I came out to my family. This is how I came out to my friends. That's why I'm here is, you know, we heard a lot of pretty words in your workshop that said, this isn't about banning books. This isn't about a power grab, but you've got a functioning library board here that I think I'm totally against this ordinance. And I had one other thing to say. I live on Glenbrook, and we had an issue this summer that you as mayor and we had another council member meet with us. And we were told you have a full-time job. And on top of this full-time job, you're working on the council. And I'm sure there's many other council members who have full-time jobs and working on the council. You don't have time to micromanage a library board. You don't have time to micromanage the police or micromanage. They're doing a great job. So that's. what I have
Thank
to
you for
say.
your comments. Appreciate it. All right, now, okay, I will turn things over now to Kelsey, our city clerk, to read in to the record our written comments, and just for everybody's education. So we only read in the person who wrote in the comment and the subject. We've had several discussions about this over the last couple of years. It's not fair to only read maybe the first 3 minutes of something in when the meat of the message might be after 3 minutes. It's not fair for us to judge if somebody is for or against it. So all of these written comments have been distributed to the council. And so Kelsey will just read into the record who made the comment in the topic.
So we received, excuse me, 10 written comments for tonight's meeting, all regarding the library and library ordinances. The comments were received from Jack, and I apologize if I pronounce any names wrong, Jack Barada, Paul Schneider, Melissa Pitt, Craig Phobes, Christine Van Horn, Abby Schuster, Teresa Van Halen, Katayam Nadarahan, Joanne Swierzy, and Bob West.
Thank you. All right, now there's one more chance if there's anybody here in the chambers or on Zoom. Let's go ahead and shoot it out to Todd Henderson in chat. If not, I will go ahead and we will move to the next section of our agenda. So Todd, just want to make one more pass. Anybody else on Zoom? Okay, nobody else in the chambers? Okay, well, I'm going to take a second to walk around the table and back because it's time for the really fun part of my job for special presentations. Always yelling at people to speak into the mic, so I guess I better do so myself. So a lot of people here may already know this young lady who I'm about to have the honor of presenting a very special award to. So Sindhu Surapranini is an 8th grader at Selkirk Middle School. And I'm not going to have time to hit on everything that she's accomplished. You would think that she was in graduate school by now, given everything that she's been able to do in her short years. So I expect a lot, even more great things to come. So in addition to being an 8th grader at Selkirk Middle School, she is the student body president on a roll. She manages somehow to get basketball, softball, volleyball, tennis, and dance into that schedule. In addition, if you guys have if you leave our building this way, one of her paintings is here in our hallway that she put together representing diversity, equity, and inclusion. as well as the article about the art piece there on our table. She recently was named Miss Teen India Spokane, Miss Teen India Washington. She's also a TEDx Spokane speaker. Her topic was You Can Do It, and I had the pleasure of attending and is part of the Young Leaders Directory. She's received the Most Inspirational Youth Award, the Spokane Young Philanthropy Award, Spokane Arts Award on Inclusion. She was invited to Invite to Artists of Color Expo and Symposium. She's received the Presidential Service Award and Be Strong State of Washington Representative. With regards to other accomplishments, with regards to fundraising and donations, she's raised money, $3,900 to donate to Blessings Under the Bridge, $6,000 donation for Giving Backpacks, and another $7,000 donation to Giving Backpacks, and this one helped Logan Elementary School families. She has created and collected 1,080 cards for Ukrainian refugees following the Russian invasion of Ukraine and worked with local schools to create collective card making effort. She has hosted hundreds of art classes online and in person. I gotta see, I told you, she's done a lot. I gotta go to page 2 here, and I'm skipping quite a bit. And then if anybody's interested, she's been in the news quite a bit. I'm not going to run through everything, but starting in 2020, she started being recognized first with the Spokesman Review as a 6th grader named to the Duke University TIP Magazine Star and many, many other accomplishments since then. So tonight I am here to present her with the President's Gold Volunteer Service Award. I'm going to read the letter from the White House, and I'm assuming that's President Biden's signature. The American story depends not on any one of us. Actually, come on up here, Sindhu. I should be reading this with you next to me. Come on up. Okay. All right, I'll start this one over. You're going to have to stand up again later. So, all right. The American story depends not on any one of us, not on some of us, but on all of us. I congratulate you on taking it upon yourself to contribute to the public good, and I'm proud to present you with the President's Gold Volunteer Service Award in recognition of your 321 hours of service to this great nation. Throughout our country's history, the American story has been strengthened by those who combine an optimism about what can be with the resilience to turn that vision into reality. I know I'm not alone in recognizing that those who are willing to step up and volunteer in service of community and country are essential to the ongoing work of forming our more perfect union. By sharing your time and passion, you are helping discover and deliver solutions to the challenges we face, solutions that we need now more than ever. We are living in a moment that calls for hope and light and love. Hope for our futures, light to see our way forward, and love for one another. Through your service, you have provided all three. On behalf of the American people, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to you for your volunteer leadership, and I encourage you to continue to answer the call of service. This country is counting on you, President Joe Biden. So we've got some additional swag that goes with that. So we also have the Presidential Volunteer Service Award certificate for Sindhu awarded in 2022. We're going to give that to you too, but more importantly is the bling. So I'm trying not to touch it. So this is the President's Volunteer Service Award. Congratulations. And I wanted to say, I know Rick Clark from Spokane Quarantine is here. Is there anything you want to say about Sindhu's volunteerism? No. For those of you who don't know Rick, he's headed up this amazing volunteer group called Spokane Quarantine that has helped many, many businesses and people around Spokane since we started getting hit with the pandemic.
Ooh, I'm going to try not to cry. That was pretty amazing. Who feels lazy in here? Right? I mean, I can't help but think of what I was doing at 13 and it wasn't this stuff. So I met Sindhu maybe just over a year ago. but every time I'm with her, I feel like I'm with someone my age. She's doing such amazing things and she does it so selflessly. So she just goes out and tries to bring that light. You know, we talk about light attracts light a lot, because when people see other people doing good things, they're attracted to that and then they go out and do good things. It's a very simple way to explain everything. And so I'm just so happy to be here. I feel like she's one of my kids. I feel like crying, but she totally deserves this. Good job.
Congratulations. I don't know, did you want to say anything or is that putting you on the spot?
I'd first off like to thank the mayor of Liberty Lake for presenting me with this award and all the city council members. This special recognition encourages me to do more good for the community. And I just want to say during the pandemic, I had a lot of time at my hands and I wanted to help the cause of homelessness. So the best way I thought was to create big paintings on diversity and inclusion and sell them so that I could donate the proceeds to organizations that help the homeless. And Tom Solberg was one of the first people that believed in me. And people like him are the people that encourage me to do more good in the community without expecting anything back. And he bought that art that is out there in the city hall now. And very thankful for him for supporting me in the beginning. And thank you. And after that, many different organizations like Chaz Health, Idaho Central Credit Union, Numerica Credit Union, Spokane Arts, Horizon Credit Union, and many other organizations also started buying my paintings so I can donate money. And I've been able to donate about $13,000 to Giving Backpacks so far. And I chose Giving Backpacks because of Rick Clark. He has a really inspiring journey. And he, on one day where he could have easily given up, he decided to help people, and he has changed many lives from now, and he's inspired me in every way possible. And his journey is just very inspiring to me, and I wanted to help out with his organization, Giving Backpacks. So that's why I chose Giving Backpacks to donate the money that I got from my paintings. And I'd also like to thank you all for coming out here today, and all the city council members and the mayor of Liberty Lake for presenting me with this award, and all the people who do good in the community. You guys all inspire me. Thank you.
I think your mom wanted a couple pictures if the council will allow us a couple minutes here. It's up to you, Mom and Dad. Did you want the council? Can the council kind of come in behind us here? Because there's not much room to go around. That way you can protect your.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, everybody. Like I said, that's the fun part of our jobs here. So now we can get back to business. So we are up to reports and inquiries. First, we have not my forte microphones. We have city council reports. Do we have anybody from city council would like to report on anything that's happened over the last couple of weeks? I've got Councilmember Dunn with his hand up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Spokane Transit Authority Board, as a group, met on the 16th of February to review the outcomes of the Planning and Development Committee. Staff had prepared a great compliance demonstration for Title VI. Federal agencies that obtain funds from federal, need to ensure service to minority and also low-income regions. Census tracts were broken out across the entire public transportation benefit district. The staff did an excellent job. That's my quick report on STA. Thanks.
Thanks, Councilmember Dunn. Appreciate your service on that board. And I'm starting to hear the cat again. All right, anybody else? City Council, Councilmember Sahlberg.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you for letting me go to the GSI meeting about a week or so ago. It was a breakfast, kind of a conference regarding retail theft. And the retail theft, thank you. The retail theft really affects all of us and was well put on. Our police lieutenant and chief were both appraised of what was happening in there. And the bottom line goals for GSI and for everybody will be to work on prevention as well as trying to get some of these police reform laws changed so that there can be arrests that are made. They don't have to watch crimes in progress and all of us pay for them.
Thank you very much. And thanks in advance for jumping in on Visit Spokane for me tomorrow while I'm at another city meeting. Okay, anybody else on council with reports? Not seeing any. We'll go ahead and move on to, oh, me. I didn't have my agenda out. All right, I sent everybody an update a little bit earlier today. I'll just hit the highlights. Obviously, this time of year between now and the end of April, there's a lot of legislative items going on at the state legislature as well as national. So I put some updates in my mayor's report on some critical bills that we're watching and some maybe not so critical. And just because it's on my list doesn't mean I personally support it, but there are things that we are watching. The one good one is House Bill 1363 with regards to vehicular pursuits was actually voted out of committee last week with some amendments. While it's not ideal, it's a significant step forward. What that will do if it continues to move forward is allow pursuits when there is a reasonable suspicion that a person in the vehicle has committed a selected list of crimes, poses a serious risk of harm to others, and the pursuit is necessary to identify them. Right now, those tools have been taken away from our police officers. And you've probably seen the result of some of that. If you're watching any of the news reports lately, there's a lot of Air One tracking stolen cars and people who have fled police. They're watching them from the helicopter and try to catch them that way, which is obviously a lot more expensive. Of interest, very interesting. It really doesn't come into play for us, at least at this point. There are sister bills with regards to increasing the property tax cap from 1% to 3%. Luckily here, we've either been at 1% or 0 for as long as I can remember. There was 1 year way early on, we went up to 3. But right now it's not an issue for us here in Liberty Lake, but I can see some smaller cities and other cities who do have revenue issues that might be able to take advantage of that. We're also watching the middle housing bill, which may force cities to accept duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes in single family zones. Now, I will not speak for Lisa Key, our planning and engineering services director. She is lucky her is she's on vacation. But just to note for the public, most of our residential zones actually already allow some of this. As you see townhomes on Country Vista, there's some townhomes at Homestead and Maxwell, plus obviously the condos. And there's also the townhomes in the River District. So you already do see some of this in our residential areas. So it won't be a huge change for us because we've already administratively taken care of some of that, but it is still something we're watching. The House Bill 1446 with regards to adding a sales tax for police hiring with the goal of to hit a rate of local officers per 1,000 residents that exceeds the national rate. I think right now we're 49th or 50th, somewhere close in that area. I'm getting the nod from outside there. So we are watching that as well. That would allow for additional classes to better bring on and more quickly bring on new police officers. I think those are condo reform. Holy cow, I don't believe how I missed that. Senate Bill 5058. So for the last 3 years, Senator Padden from here in our district has been trying to get through the legislature some reforms to condo liability legislation. And what our developers face now is they are required to provide, I believe it's a 10-year warranty on any condos that they build, which is very cost prohibitive, which is why you don't see many condos being built, especially here in Liberty Lake. It's a great option for entry-level housing, or even, you know, as you know, as an empty nester now. That's probably something that might be, you know, attractive to me at some point. We do have a small couple condo buildings over in the Stonehill area, and the condos that you see at Big Trout came about because after 5 years, a developer can flip apartments to condos. So this year's version of the bill, like I said, Senate Bill 5058 passed unanimously in the Senate. I don't have all the details behind that, but I have been in communication with a couple of our developers, and they're very excited about this and being able to have an opportunity to bring some different price level housing here to Liberty Lake. You know, entry level and whatnot, like I said before. So there are several links in the report that I sent out to the council. Feel free to peruse those, including the hot sheet for AWC. I provided some summaries of department updates in case you didn't have a chance to read through the updates from the individual individual departments. And the one set of statistics I'd like to share, since we are talking about libraries. Some statistics from January of 23 over 22. Checkouts were up 24.8%, renewals up 36.4%, overdrive downloads are up 17.4%, computer sessions up 46%, patron visits up 63.2%. There were 50,931 visitors in 2022, 156 meeting room reservations, and now that we have in the new study room, the request for meeting rooms has now gone up to 3 to 5 requests per day. So great use of the library, and you know, another good reason that we're looking forward to getting started on designing and moving into the new building. I think that's about it for me. Like I said, lots of things going on, and I'm sure Mark will touch on his City Action Days with AWC here in just a few moments. That brings us to the city administrator report.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council, and members of the public. And I can say without a reservation that since I've been here, this is the largest in-person crowd that we've had. So we're happy to have you here. With respect to the legislative session, we've kind of entered into a new phase. We last Friday hit the cutoff date for the policy committee bills to be referred out. This Friday, we hit the date for the fiscal committee bills to be reported out. And so from Friday on, we're only going to be dealing with those bills that have been reported out of their respective committees in each house, moving toward March 8th when the House of Origin deadline hits us. So we're kind of entering this new phase of the legislature, and you'll hear more about the bills that have survived as we go forward. And later on in the City Action Days debrief, I'll talk about a couple of the specific ones that we've been keeping our eye on. Next item, the City Council strategy session. We've been talking about this for a while. It's upon us. A week from this Saturday, we're going to be meeting in the police department's training room. And later this week, we'll be sending information out to you via email about the lunch menu so we can go through that selection process. Kiwanis Father and Daughter Dance is coming up also on that same date, March 4th, which is Saturday at the Marabou Park Hotel. A lot more information about that online if you have an interest in attending that. And then finally, on the events and reminders item, we've got the Spokane Symphony. We're lucky enough through the library to have several tranches of tickets for various performances. And the next one that is available is the March 5th performance. And the tickets are available both in person and online. So if you're interested in going to the symphony free of charge through a program that our library sponsors, go check out the tickets.
And you need
because
a
there's
library
still
card
some-
for that. So go get your library
Get
card.
a library card first. Yes, assuming you have a library card, go check out the ticket availability at the library. That's a great program. Second item on the report, the mayor mentioned this a minute ago, and this is something new that we want to introduce at the first meeting of the next month, is to give the council an opportunity to, after reviewing the department reports, to ask any questions so that you can get feedback on things that may be out there that are of interest, or things that you thought you would see but don't see, those kinds of things. And so this is the first opportunity for us to have that dialogue in a council meeting. And we understand that it's going to take some time to develop a rhythm. This will give us an opportunity to hear some of the things that you may want to see. It'll give us the opportunity to communicate some things that we want you to know. And so we expect to see this just being a dialogue from meeting to meeting. We're not going to make a presentation of this per se. We just want to provide you with the reports as we've always done and give you an opportunity to ask questions of those department heads. So if there are any of those reports that you've received, feel free to ask them at this point.
I'm not seeing anybody.
Okay, and you can always come back to us later via email, give us a call, text us, and we'll be happy to talk through those things with you. Quick debrief of the City Action Days, which was last week. This is a program that the Association of Washington Cities puts on. It's the first time I think we've been live with that for a couple of years. So there was a big turnout. I want to say that it felt like there were about 300 people there. I'm not sure what the actual turnout was, but there were a lot of folks there representing cities from all over the state. You heard the mayor mention some specific bills in her report, and those are all ones that AWC is watching. You got the watch list that came out that she sent you a link to as well. What I can say about the City Action Days was that it was impressive to see, especially if there were issues that either affected all cities or cities in a specific region or cities of a specific size or type. Those cities were able to work together, meeting with their respective legislators and letting them know how those impacts were going to be felt in the community and giving them some, I think, boots on the ground level understanding of what maybe some other considerations needed to be. And that's on both sides of those issues. And so it was just a great reminder for me. And the mantra of this particular meeting was the cities working together have a powerful voice. I'm paraphrasing that, but it was something to that effect. And I can say that that's a true statement. If we work together, if we work with AWC and we go with a compelling story, there are listening ears in the legislature. It doesn't mean that we're always going to get the thing that we want done, but it means that we are in a much better position by expressing our voice. And so I appreciate the opportunity to attend and giving you some of the information coming back from that. And if there are any questions about that, specific questions, I'll be happy to answer them now, or if you want to chat later, we can do that too. So seeing none, I'm going to move on and give another reminder. And I'm glad that there are as many people here as there are about our Civil Service Commission. We have opened applications for that commission. And this is one that deals primarily with our police department. It's a 3-member commission. And right now we have 4 applications. We'd like to get some more. And so if you're interested possibly in serving on a city commission, and this one sounds interesting to you, if you have a love of working with police departments or just have a curiosity about what that may entail, check that out on our website and consider applying to become a Civil Service Commission member. And Mayor, that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. All right, we have a Parks and Arts Commission report. I don't see anybody here. Jen, is there anything to report for Parks and Arts?
Yeah, Nancy should be coming on
The
soon.
attendees, I didn't see Nancy. There she is. So Nancy Hill is, I believe you're president now of the Parks and Art Commission, correct? Chair.
Chair, yes.
Yes, so welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm happy to be here on behalf of the Parks and Arts Commission. We're working on a number of really exciting projects this year. Our big project is the Hooptown USA Community Court, which, as you know, we've identified the double basketball courts at Pavilion Park for the full court mural. We put out the call for artists and we're waiting for those responses to come in. So the next step after that was be putting together a selection committee, which we hope will be a diverse group to help pick a design. We've also been working with the Daughters of the American Revolution on a Never Forget garden, which commemorates the 100th anniversary of the tomb of the unknown soldier. There are a number of gardens going up in the area, and they would really like to have one in Liberty Lake. we've selected a location at Orchard Park underneath the flagpole. And DAR is working on next steps. So that's really an exciting collaboration. Also in the works are graffiti barrels. They finally got unback ordered, so that project will be coming together shortly. And we're going to establish another story walk like the one at Rocky Hill at Orchard Park. So also exciting. Finally, the Parks and Arts Commission at our next meeting is going to be holding a little workshop. We've got a couple new commissioners, so we thought it was a good time to review our mission and our purpose and to set forward a roadmap as we look towards the future and what we can do to enhance both the art in our city and, of course, our beautiful parks. To that end, we hope to have a Parks and Arts Commissioner come once a month to update you. We hope that it will be a rotation of the different commissioners coming through so that you'll get to know all of us. We're really excited and it's a great group and I think it's going to be a great year. Any questions?
Thanks, Nancy. Does anybody have any questions? I don't see any. Thanks for all your hard work.
Well, thanks.
Hey, real quick, when are the proposals due for the Hooptown art?
I think it's the middle of March. So probably at our next meeting, we'll talk about how we're going to form that selection committee.
Great, thank you. Okay, all right. So next up, we have Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District. Bill Dunaway, thanks for coming.
Well, this is fun. We don't normally get this many people here. So we also have a meeting. Our next meeting's on March 13th at 4 o'clock at the admin building. That's where you all pay your bills if you ever go there. It's probably not as exciting as this, but you learn about sewer and water things. It's kind of fun. You need it. It's part of your life. What kind of building? We have a well down here. It's called the Kenny Well, and it's right off of where the new Ace Hardware building is. And by the way, if you haven't been to that building, it's spectacular. I had no idea it was going to be so wonderful. But anyway, when you come off the I-90 off ramp into Liberty Lake, there's a little piece of ground there that there's a road. People are using it to not go to the light, but cut across to the Ace Hardware. Our well is right there. So we're going to build a little fence around that, and we're probably going to put another well in there. It's the best water we have in the whole district. In fact, probably the best water there is in the whole state, because we have these, contests every once in a while. We always win. We have the best water. Liberty Lake has great water. And we don't chlorinate, fluoridate. We don't do anything to it. It just comes out of the ground and you drink what it is. So we're going to do a little of that. Another thing is barbed wire around some of our properties. It's kind of an issue. The city kind of has an ordinance that's a little fuzzy on that. So we're going to work with the city on seeing what we can do about protecting our property. We're also going to get involved with the city academy. Apparently, this is one of Mark's deals, and we've had some discussion with him, and we're going to participate in this program. Citizens will go to this little academy and we'll tell them how our district was formed, some of the things we do, protecting the environment, protecting the lake, things like that. So we're getting into a little bit of a problem with supply chain, like everybody is and knows about. And this could impact building in Liberty Lake because you are selling permits like crazy. So this could be a banner year for Liberty Lake building. Unfortunately, to get it hooked up to the water and sewer might be a little tricky. So we have a supply of the equipment that we need to hook those houses and apartments and condos up. But we don't have, we can't get any new things in, and it's, the back orders are way out. So we're working on that, and hopefully we will We'll get that done. If you ever want a tour of a sewage treatment plant, we're glad to do that.
Thanks, Billy. Appreciate it. It's actually is very interesting to do that tour. I will plug. All right, before we move on, is there any other reports that we've missed or anything from staff who's on that we may have missed? I don't see anybody popping up. So, all right, so that takes us to, we have rearranged the agenda to go to 15A, which is our first read ordinance. So what happens is Kelsey will do the first read. There can be discussion. There doesn't always discussion, but I expect there will be this time. No vote, anything that comes out of, any red lines, modifications that come out today will be moved. It'll be up to the council whether we want to move it to a second read with those adjustments at the next meeting or what the next step is. So Kelsey, you are on.
This is ordinance number 119C, an ordinance of the city of Liberty Lake, Spokane County, Washington, amending ordinance number 119B, establishing the Liberty Lake Public Library and repealing any provisions in conflict thereof.
Okay, so that's how we do a first read. We don't read the entire ordinance, thank goodness. So we will go ahead and open up for discussion regards to the change to the ordinance. I know there was a lot said at the workshop, including pointing out that the addition to G1 may not exactly follow the intent of what some of the council members wanted. So who'd like to go first?
I'll jump in, Mayor.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Sure. I just want to say there's been a lot, the workshop was, I think, very productive, and this is the purpose of this process. That's why we have a first read and a second read. So we can get citizen comment and have interaction with the different parties. Me personally, a lot was said and there's a lot to digest. So probably gonna be wanting more time to absorb it at this point. So.
Okay. Take the next comment. Councilmember Kurtz.
One of the things that I'd like us to think about as we're thinking about this between now and the assumption that it's going to go to a second read at the next meeting, 100% of the comments from the public have been opposed to this. 100%, not 50%, 50%, not 60-40. 100% of the people that have commented are not supporting this change. The Board of Trustees was unanimous in saying that they supported the changes that they put forward. And so what that brings up for me is a question about why. Why are we moving this forward? Why are we not adjusting our views? Why is this necessary? Is it a want versus a need? I would argue that today it does not appear to be a need. It appears to be a want. And we've talked about needs and wants when we've debated things here and discussed things in the past. Two of the things that I don't like about politicians. One of them is the idea that they don't listen to us or they don't represent us. Again, 100% of the comments have been opposed to this. So if we continue to go forward and we have a vote that isn't 0 to 7, we are not listening to our residents. We're pushing something forward that is for some other gain than the benefit of our community. We have objective data. We've had people that have spoken up about it. We talk a lot about community engagement here, and we have engaged our community. They have given us their perspective. And to continue to go forward and not listen to our residents, to me, signals that there's something greater here, which is what everybody is saying, that there's something greater here. There's something else that you guys aren't telling us. We may not like what the people have said, but they have said it. Our job is not to like it. Our job is to represent our residents, all of them. The other thing that I don't like about politicians, or the thing that people worry about, is an abuse of power or corruption. To willingly change a law because it's something that you believe in or something that benefits you or somebody else can be viewed as an abuse of power. Private benefit can include for the benefit of one's party, one's class, one's friends, family, your employer, an individual. Those are the things that qualify as an abuse of power. The public voted for us, put their trust in us. And we took an oath to uphold the laws of not only the United States, but the state of Washington. And we do have a law to uphold here. We have an RCW that establishes the Board of Trustees, and that is the law. Amending a law, which we can do, and that's one of the things that has been asked, is should we do this? And I think that's the question that we need to sit on and think about for the next 2 weeks, is whether or not we should. Clearly we can. It's a change to an ordinance. We can do that. But performing an official duty in an improper way is malfeasance. There are a lot of things that we could do, but I guess the question is, should we? And I guess at this point, I don't agree that we should. So that leaves me with a couple of questions. Should we? What is the why? And I think that's the part that I'm unclear on. I hear a little bit about aligning policies and that we want to have some oversight and we do it with everybody else. But what is the purpose? What are the intended and unintended consequences of making this change? And what are some people's silent intentions? We are a nonpartisan board. We are supposed to be a nonpartisan board. That means we should be checking our personal biases at the door. So again, I think that there are some ethical concerns that we need to be thinking about over the next couple of weeks. And one of the other pieces is, I guess, again, we talk about community engagement and we need to be listening. The PACE character trait of the month is honesty for February. So talking about honesty, we honestly did not engage with our community. We did not engage with the Board of Trustees until tonight. We invited them to have a joint meeting and then we didn't hold one. And then we did tonight. We asked them to be present. We had them present at workshops here to discuss changes. And then as an example, when I asked to engage them in the discussion, that was not something that we moved forward with. We literally had a dialogue about them with them here in the room, and we didn't engage them in that discussion at all. It was one of the most awkward and frankly unprofessional things that I've been a part of. The trustees operated within their scope and within the law. And so for people to want to change this now, it does feel, I can see how the public does feel like this is some sort of retaliation and that there is some bigger picture issue here that is not being talked about. And it's just concerning to continue to be a part of it. We're here because a majority of the council members wanted it to be put on the agenda, and that's what democracy is. We're here to talk about it. But it sounds like the purpose, the best I can understand, because I don't have another explanation from anybody yet, is to take back a power that we're unaware we didn't have actually. This body, this group, we were negligent in our duties. We did not know the law. Several people are on the record saying they assumed or they believed that the policies would be brought before us, and that's not what the law says. We didn't pay attention. The trustees met for months to revise the policies, and this council was absent from any part of that. We've dismissed the impact of the ordinance changed with other myths so far, such as the final decision should rest with elected officials. And as I said before in the workshop, we have a mayor, we have a city administrator, we have department heads. Our role with the council is to pass budgets and pass laws. We do not run the city. Another myth that was brought forward is the people need another place to go if they don't like the decisions of the trustees. The law is clear. The Board of Trustees has the authority to make these decisions. And the last one is that it's just 5 simple words. One of our residents was kind enough to send us the Altman decision. And one of the quotes in there that resonated with me was, when opponents of the books failed to censor the books outright, they sought to accomplish indirectly what they could not do directly. And for me, this leaves bigger questions. What's next? So we have to make this change. Are we going to review all the policies of the library? Again, establishing that ineffective loop of the board makes recommendations, we don't like them, so then what happens? Who decides? Essentially, we become the board of trustees ourselves. The community is alarmed at the idea of this council in charge of the library. Maybe not this council, but whoever is elected to these seats next or appointed to these seats next. And so I think we're out of our depth, which I mentioned before. And I don't think that we're principled enough yet to hold this power. So in summary, I don't think these are just 5 simple words. There's great implication, power, and consequence attached to the 5 words. We all know it, or this room would not be packed with residents today. People who are passionate about the library. The 5 small words proposed relinquish the established independent decision-making power of the library to this body. It's a dangerous proposition to have elected officials who have no demonstrated education on the topic, nor steadiness and consistency in application of principle to wield this power. We do not have the fortitude to support the library properly. Furthermore, we took an oath to represent the people in this community. The people have spoken resoundingly on the subject, and 100% do not want this amendment to the ordinance. In my opinion, those who vote in favor of the amendment are not representing this community, and to that end are not serving the best interests of the public. So if this is not about banning books, I suggest we put a resolution on the next agenda stating in fact, that fact, and voting on it as a council, that we will not ban books or censor our community.
Thank you. Oh, all right, who's next? Any next? Councilmember Van Orman.
In serving the first 12 years of this community, it pretty amazes me to think that when we talk about political pressure, I still remember the golf course ordinance coming before us. The mayor came in, threw a bunch of weeds on the dais and said that, you know, we're going to pass an ordinance and we're going to tax the citizens.
Can you get
And
closer to your mic?
He basically got everyone into the council chambers that were golfers, whether they lived here in the city or not. This to me, again, is political pressure. You know, we've got lots of citizens here that are stating what they believe, and what this ordinance is about is not what you have all stated. I'm just amazed. So amazed.
Mayor, again,
Yes.
can we?
Yeah, we
Thank you.
need to have no reaction from the audience. And I know it hurts, but we need to keep that down. All right, who's up next? Councilmember Dunn?
Yeah, thanks. You know, one thing I'd that also resonated in the conversations from earlier, the citizen comment actually, was regarding the power that's authorized in this ordinance update, and not the actions of this council, but a subsequent council. And as we look at each other and think to the reason that, you know, we all have, we would not think any unthinkable outcome. But this ordinance enables that, not to the people here, but I'll just role play and say that for some strange reason, 4 people of this council were moved, and we appointed 4 people who could then subsequently take any action that they chose in our library. So, you know, my strongest suggestion is what is being created as the authority in this ordinance is creating an ability that I don't think any of us would really intend. The other part I'd observe is for the position in support of the ordinance, suggesting I don't want to be, you know, in your business, and I don't want to, you know what you do, but I want to say no to what you do, is a little bit of a cognitive dissonance for me. It's an internally conflicted statement. To have the authority to say no inherently says, I want to be in your business. So it's not working for me as an advocating position. So,
Right.
thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Dunn. All right, next we haven't heard from Councilmembers Cargill, Spencer, or Saulberg.
All right,
Councilmember Cargill.
thank you.
First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who came out tonight. And I hope you'll keep coming out, whether this is on the agenda or not. You know, I was not all that impressed or pleased with what happened in the 6 p.m. session as well. Let me explain why. We didn't, it was touted to all of you as a community that it would be a discussion. It wasn't a discussion. It was, this is wrong, you shouldn't do it. That's not a discussion. A discussion would have been coming in and saying, we understand that some of the council has these feelings. Here's our reasoning why we did this. Is there a middle ground? Is there something we could do to make sure that both sides are satisfied? We didn't get to that. It was all in my opinion, a meeting that was all about how can we get the 4 who originally put this on the agenda to change their minds. That's it. That's not a discussion. You know, I was open to the idea of coming in and saying, okay, let's figure out a way we can do this. I suggested to Laughter at the last meeting that the alternative to what we were discussing was creating a library district so that the library could control itself. We're not sitting up here doing this for our purposes. We're up here doing this for your purposes. Because you all are funding the library. It is a department of the city, just like any other department in the city. It's a department of the city. That means you all have control over it via us. If you don't like what we do, you can take us off the council at any time. You can vote against us in any election. You can't do that with any other board or commission in the city.
Councilmember Cargo, you're supposed to be directing your discussion with the council, not to the audience.
I'm not sure why this issue wasn't on the agenda a couple of weeks ago. I asked the question then, I didn't really get a good response. The headlines that are out there and almost every email I've received is all about how this is banning a book. And it is not banning a book. If this had been in place last year, the vote would have remained the same. The book would still be on the shelves. And I'll also just say this, you know, the example was brought up about the snow plow and how we didn't read through the manual of the snow plow, we just approved it. Yeah, that's right. They came to us and asked us for our opinion on this purchase. Would we approve this purchase? And we said yes. It was also mentioned earlier that the board is like the Supreme Court. The City of Liberty Lake Library Board is not a co-equal branch of government. It is not. Again, if we are going to say that the library board should have all this autonomy and be able to do what they want without any oversight, then let's create a library district. And let's have that library district board be directly accountable to the citizens elected by the citizens.
Councilmember Cargo, I'm going to ask you again. This is to be your.
Well, I asked several times,
Your
Mayor.
comments are supposed to be directed to the other council members.
Yes.
It's a debate. This is not a direct response to the audience.
And I asked several times, Mayor, for the audience to be directed not to clap, and
And I
that
did so.
continued to happen. You know, this issue did not arise after the May meeting when the book ban wasn't put into place. I even said at that meeting, I'd be in favor of leaving it on the shelves if we had a way to make sure that kids had to get permission from their parents. Regardless, this issue arose after the October meeting. This issue arose after the library board came to us and said, we've decided to change this policy. And some of the folks on this dais, including myself, were caught off guard by that. And we are told not to attend the library board meetings. So yes, we can look through agendas and we can watch previous meetings, but for those of you who said, well, you should have just gone to a meeting, we are told not to attend those meetings. Let me just say this. People often talk about what makes our country so special. And to me, what makes it so special is we have checks and balances. We have checks and balances in place for a reason. You know, it was said earlier that this is a dangerous proposition to change this. I think it's a dangerous proposition to have it be the way that it is right now. And I'm not suggesting the five little words that we're talking about are the right policy. They may not be the right policy. Let's have a discussion about that. Let's have a broader discussion about that. But to say it's yay or nay and that's it, leaves a really bad taste in my mouth. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we haven't heard from Councilmembers Solberg or Spencer. Go ahead, Councilmember Spencer.
Sure, thanks. So I kind of mostly said my piece in the meeting earlier. I want to kind of echo what Councilmember Cargill said. You know, I'm not in favor of banning books. I don't think that's a good option. I do agree with the idea that the council was removed from that policy for, you know, having that go all the way up to the council. I think that's not a good use of our time to be doing book challenges. So I think that's great. When I stood up as a citizen in that May meeting, I said, I think there ought to be a way to establish a minimum standard of decency. That's what I'm after. I'm not looking to ban books for adults, you know, limit the selection for adults to read. That's not what I'm about. I will never stand by any sort of resolution to ban books in any library. I don't think that's a good idea. Just as you guys have, I guess I'm not addressing the citizens here. Just as the citizens have stated, they don't want books banned. I don't know why that has been the predominant message in the emails that have come to us. I'm not aware of anybody on this dais who has said, I want to ban books. I feel, and again, I'm not going to speak for them, but this is my opinion. The two members who voted to ban the book did so because they didn't have any alternative. There's nothing in place with the current policy that would dictate that we have some sort of restrictions for minors. I think we can all agree that there is material in the library that probably ought not to be viewed by minors. There has been comments made that if you're a good parent, you'll make sure that you're looking at what they're reading, and you'll be that tool to make sure that they're reading appropriate material. If we had restrictions in place, that wouldn't be eliminated. You as the parent could still make the decision to check out that book for your minor child. But what it does do is make it so that a minor doesn't waltz in there and stumble upon something that they shouldn't. So I guess that's the crux of the issue for me. I'm not, again, I want to be very clear. I don't think we should ban books. So for anybody to make the statement that if you're going to ban books, then just do it. I mean, I think that's a pretty audacious statement. I think several of the statements made tonight, while very passionate, are opinions. And we all have opinions. To state that, you know, our attempt to put another check and balance in place is unprofessional, again, we're going to have to agree to disagree.
Thanks. Councilmember Solberg, you're the one we haven't heard from yet.
Well, I said most of what I had to say before too, because it came from the citizens, and that's what I'm trying to represent. Let me just say a couple of things that were said here. the whole concept of checks and balances and I think we said separation of powers too. Those are for the government. Those aren't for the citizens. Constitution does not control the citizens, it controls the government. And so when you say you want to add that level of checks and balances, my question is, citizens are at the top of our organizational chart. Citizens, we say, are the most important people here in Liberty Lake. I fully intend to be a citizen again. In fact, I am as a council member. We, the city council, answers to the citizens, not the other way around. They oversight us, not us them. If we don't trust them, in this case, to me, the Board of Trustees, to manage the policies of the library, we're changing our entire governance and the meaning of Liberty Lake together. As to whether or not we want to be involved in the Board of Trustees, nobody told us we could not attend commission meetings. It was discouraged. I went to almost every single one of those meetings and watched them work, as I have with Parks and Arts, as I have with the Planning Commission, because I'm a citizen here who wants to know what's going on. And as your representative, I need to know those things. Those meetings were open. Those meetings are open to you right now. Look on your computers, because you can go to the video and see every single one of those meetings and everything that was said. So to me, this ordinance change is totally unnecessary. It is a change of governance, and I'm opposed to it. And I will say, guilty as charged. Whoever it was, Phil, maybe you're the one that said it, is guilty as charged. I was here. I came to this meeting hoping that at least one, if not all of you, would rethink your positions. And I've heard some of you say that maybe you will. I hope you do.
Okay, Councilman, okay, everybody's had a chance. Councilmember Kurtz.
So to that end, and with what Councilmember Cargill said when he was speaking, where's the middle ground? So we didn't get to that point in the workshop. But before we just trudge on through with the ordinance the way it is now, what is the middle ground? What is the solution to what we have before us? What are the suggestions for something different?
Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember Spencer.
I just had a quick question, because it was brought up in the meeting earlier that the addition to G1 doesn't actually do what those of us who are proponents of this change are hoping for it to do. And that's a curious point, because I noticed that the word policy isn't found in this ordinance. So if that's the desire of the council to simply have the final, red line version of the policy. Oh, sorry, can you guys not hear me? Okay. So if that's the desire of the council, to simply have oversight of policy, the last say, it seems as though we might have to adjust the wording of the ordinance itself, because the word policy isn't even in the ordinance.
All right, no further comments. So I guess I'm looking to you guys. What's the next step do you want to take? Do you want to table the ordinance and come back? Yeah, and we talked about this, at a previous meeting. This ordinance is fairly old. There are some things that are kind of ambiguous with regards to, and it can be confusing, with the way it's put together. I'm sure we stole it from somebody, like we stole a lot of things from other jurisdictions back then. We, not trying to recreate the wheel every time. So I do know there's some housekeeping cleanup that needs to be done with this, which I was hoping that we would do at the same time, but just didn't seem right to mix it at this point. I'm looking for you guys on the council to say what the next step is that you'd like to take, because at this point, I'm not hearing it one way or the other. Councilmember Kurtz.
I don't think we're ready to move forward for a second read. And I'm open to ideas, but I feel like we were just kind of getting to the meat of the workshop when the workshop was over. And so my suggestion, my idea would be to have potentially another workshop with the Board of Trustees that is perhaps longer, so that we can really dive into this and really have a discussion, because to Councilmember Cargill's point, we didn't really discuss things. Everybody had their points and it was formal, but discussions on how to best serve the library, I don't think we got there.
So am I hearing a motion for an additional workshop?
I would make a motion for an additional workshop and tabling the second read until after the workshop.
One subject.
One
I'm
subject.
sorry.
So just would like to move to have a workshop
Before the next read.
before the next read with the Library Board of Trustees.
Okay, do we have a second? We have a second from Councilmember Solberg. All right, all in favor of?
Can we have a little more discussion on that?
Sure.
So can we discuss what this would look like? Are we going to review the entire ordinance? Are we going to do it in a 6 PM meeting? Is this going to be a completely separate meeting that's going to be several hours? How are we breaking this down?
Well, I would ask, I think if we're going to look at the ordinance, we need to look at the whole thing. I would ask for the board's input on the housekeeping piece as well, and I think you guys have looked at that a little bit. So yeah, I would suggest maybe, I don't know, another 6 PM with a continuation into 7, yeah, whatever works best, or we look at the calendar, and I know March Madness is coming. But we look at the calendar, maybe we do have an off Tuesday or another night of one of the weeks where we just do this and we go through it section by section with Sean's guidance, obviously, with regards to making sure we're not, crossing any lines, but we do need that housekeeping as well, to better define some things, and then further discussion on, is the solution simply an agreement that when there are upcoming changes, the board presents the background, and then we move on. And of course, take questions. I don't know. Yeah, I don't have a vote since it has to do with an ordinance. I'm just trying to come up with some suggestions.
I guess what I would like to see, if we're going to do that, I'd actually like the library board to bring us back 3 to 5 different ideas on how to incorporate what we're talking about here. So maybe it's right to citizen appeal. Maybe it's language like the mayor just said. Maybe it's the language as is that's in it right now. Give us some options about what you would be comfortable with. And then that way we can look at it and say, okay, the 4 of us who voted last time on this can look at it and say, okay, we like this. I don't like option B. Here's why I don't like option C. And then we can have the discussion. That would make me feel better about saying, okay, let's meet with the board again. If it's just kind of going to be another workshop where we don't really accomplish much other than saying, let's not do this. I'm not necessarily interested in that.
Well, and I would put the challenge back to the council to also come up with some ideas. This is not something that we need to put solely on the board, but let's come up, each council member, try to come up with their own suggestions on, how do we word it? What do we want it to look like? So we have both parties coming to the table. Maybe there's something in there that we come up, we've got the board's suggestions, we've got the council's suggestions, and hey, guess what? Something in there matches. Maybe we could get that lucky. I don't know. Again, just throwing things out, some things out there.
There's been talk about, whether, if we, I think the battery may be done.
Grab one next
Shut off
to you.
like that, does it? Well, it's on now. Anyway, there's been talk of, if we implement this change to the ordinance, now that while, the members of this council are not going to ban books. Again, I haven't heard anybody stating that privately or publicly that they want to ban books. So that's not going to happen under this council, but the possibility that at some point in the future, a change like this would make that possible. I'm curious as to what, exploring that idea of creating a library district and having that board be elected by the people, would that prevent that possibility? I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not necessarily saying I'm in favor of that. Again, I think we should explore these things because if we want what's in the best interest of the citizens and of the people, the patrons of the library, I think it's worth at least exploring to understand what are the ramifications there. At the last time we talked about this ordinance, that was a similar question was, you know, amongst us, you know, what are the ramifications of this change? And, you know, I didn't hear really any compelling argument for or against, other than, hey, you know, we're looking to add another check and balance. And so that's why we move forward to tonight. But I'm willing to look at other options.
Okay, so-
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Thank you. The motion on the floor is to have a special meeting prior to our next meeting.
Thank you.
So, hearing everybody speak tonight and they're, I'm getting a sense that some are open to more dialogue. So if that is the case, then one, I would vote against the motion to have a special meeting before our next meeting because we have a Saturday meeting for half a day with this body in next Saturday. So
That's right.
Well, we can always decide on
Make
whether or
a
not we're gonna do it and then pick a date later.
can I make a can we table this to a little bit later date and allow everybody time to gather their thoughts and come to the table with, like has been suggested, on how we can come to the middle ground here, but not do it in such a fashion that it's a fire drill.
So I believe the original motion was to just have a workshop before the next read, but
That's what
Before
it
the
was.
next read, yeah, I
but
had no.
not necessarily
the next
assuming the next read will be at the 21st. So
Right. And
I
that's where
believe the
needed to
intent was
separate
to
the
move that
motion.
possibly. Is that correct?
I thought it was the next meeting.
Well, so I needed to separate my two asks. One of them was to have the workshop. The second one was to table the second read to later.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. You have to
So we
keep.
haven't got to the
motions
second part yet.
separate. Okay. So since we've had the discussion and well, and I think that I make sure I'm not missing Dan there. So all of those in favor of making sure we schedule an additional joint workshop before the next read, date to be determined, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'll keep your hands up. So we've got Annie, Tom, and Dan. Okay, so those opposed
Aye.
to,
No.
okay, so you don't want a workshop?
I think we need to address the next read first.
Yeah, that's
So
what.
I move that we
Okay, so hold
Suspend
on, so
this.
hold on, so hold on, so motion,
didn't. pass.
motion fails,
Let me,
yes.
that motion fails. Let me interject here with
Thank you.
regard to the reads and the ordinances. Keep in mind that the way the rules are as far as two readings at two separate meetings, doesn't have to be consecutive meetings.
Right.
So from the standpoint of trying to suspend rules or what that situation, is, just know that if you want to table it to another time, that's fine. The council's general procedure is to have a second read at the next successive meeting, but the rules provide just two reads at two separate meetings. So
So-
to the extent you want to put it on an agenda at a particular date, you can certainly do that.
Or that we move to suspend the rule to read it at the next meeting.
Well, you don't, that's not a rule, so you don't have to suspend it.
Oh, that's what I thought you just.
No,
said.
no, no.
No.
I'm saying the requirement is just to have two reads at two separate meetings, not consecutive meetings.
So,
So if you wanted to put this as a second read in April, for example,
Yeah.
you could do that.
So I would feel better if I knew the date of the second read and then we kind of work back from that.
Sure.
So let me make the motion and hopefully this works with what Annie was discussing, that we table this to the April 4th meeting. Is that too far?
It's spring break.
Oh, spring break. Okay.
Um,
Can we,
So, well,
April 18th.
sure, April
There's no rush.
18th?
yeah,
Okay, so the April 18th meeting. And I'll make the other motion separately since
Okay.
we got to do
so
that.
do we have a second to move the second read of ordinance 119C to the April 18th meeting?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second by Councilmember Solberg. Any discussion?
Yeah, just quick question.
Yes.
Clarification. So if we were to adjust the verbiage on this, then we would go back to a first read? Is that
No,
correct?
sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead.
You can make revisions on a first or second read.
Oh,
So if
okay.
you want to make revisions in April, you can do that.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, so all in favor of moving the second read to April 18th, please say aye.
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 All right, any opposed? All right, motion passes 7-0. All right, we got that taken care of.
So now can I make a motion that we schedule a meeting with the library board before April 18th?
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, who wants credit?
I'll take
Mayor
it.
Pro Tem. All right, so we have a motion, a second to schedule a workshop before April 18th. All in favor, please say aye.
Can I make one
Yes.
question? For the sake of all of us, do we need to put guardrails on that meeting? Are we keeping it open-ended? What is the
Do you mean
prerogative?
time-wise?
Well,
or-
time, discussion, everything, all of the above.
How about this? Why don't you pick the date and then you can have further discussion at a different meetings or offline to pick specific if you want, so that you can figure out exactly what that looks like.
Okay.
And if you want, I can kind of play mediator. I don't want to say mediator, moderator in that between library board and the council on the desires of what that meeting needs to look like, whether it's everybody bring back, this is what we think would solve it with different ideas, whatever that's going to look like, but we'll have time. And then, how just informally, how's everybody feel about us doing a doodle poll on when to schedule that? Because we'll have to get the library board, their input on the date. Because we would have a couple off Tuesdays. We have the 14th of March, we've got the 28th of March and the 11th of April. So maybe if Tuesdays are still good for everybody, we'll send that doodle poll out and see when we can get the most people there. Yes, ma'am.
I think it would be very pertinent to make sure that our attorney
Oh, of course.
is
He's part of
in
the,
that meeting. Yes.
yeah.
And I'd like to also ask for, I don't know if you can bring this back, Sean, what would be the process we would go through to create a library district? Just so we have that in front of us.
Sure. And Mayor, if I may, not that I want to take the bullet, but I will, because it was me that suggested it. The subject to city council approval, if everyone remembers, was because I was trying to find clarity on what the council wanted with regard to the discussion. And so in the idea of trying to make a suggestion, it was, if it's just looking for oversight, that's where the language came from. So I made that suggestion. It may not be the right suggestion. It may be something completely different, but that's how it came about and why it was in there, because I was trying to understand in revising the ordinance what the language was going to look like. So I'll just reiterate that again for the council's purposes and that of the board, is whatever it is you're trying to achieve, we want to make sure that the language is accurate and reflects what it is that you're looking for. So just keep that in mind when you're doing, we can do some wordsmithing and things like that, but I'm just trying to understand overall where it will go, what it will look like, and then we can draft it accordingly.
Right. So Mark, you and I can work on getting a doodle poll out to everybody.
Sorry, we didn't vote on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I.
Fine. Oh, yeah, a lot to keep track of here. All right, what are we're all in favor, who's in favor of scheduling a joint workshop with the Library Board of Trustees prior to the second read?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, motion passes 7-0. Done voting for a minute? All right. Okay, so thanks for everybody's patience through that. So workshop discussion, and I don't have a lot on this, and I apologize, that keeps getting moved out, whether I'm sick or we just have.
Can we take a break?
Sure.
Thank you.
Second, no, actually, let's just do a,
Yeah.
what do we call it? Stand at ease. 5 minutes. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
8:57.
8:57.
You wanna try-
All right. Thank you, Todd. All right, everybody, we are back. Thanks for allowing us that short break. So next up is our workshop discussion on code of ethics and social media policy. And again, I'm going to apologize for this continuing to move out. It wasn't highest priority. And then packed agendas, and then I was out last meeting with COVID, so feeling better. So there are, this is really just more of a start to the conversation. We have this, we've got the whole Code of Ethics, Chapter 10 out of our code with regards to Code of Ethics. And there's just a small section really on social media. And it's been a while since we looked at this. There's been more court cases and whatnot with regards to what qualifies as a open public meeting on social media, what record retention. So, as most of you know, we have, since we hired David Gaynor, we've really beefed up our city's website presence. LinkedIn, we're getting ready to do some podcasts, and we're really trying to pull out all the stops to have our official communication come out of City Hall with the ability to share. And I think that's really where, where part of this conversation I want to have is, there's not a, there's people much smarter than me who just aren't on social media, but, at times, it just, you have to have that conversation with the public at some point. And just want to remind everybody, about not using your own personal social media accounts. If you're going to be posting anything on social media with regards to city business, sharing city events and whatnot, you really should have a separate profile for that, for record retention reasons. There are all kinds of rules around what you can and cannot delete, and it especially goes for at the city level. But, if I post something as a City of Liberty Lake mayor and somebody responds with something I don't like, I can't delete that. And that's some of that's a tightrope we walk when it comes to a lot of our private groups, like our Liberty Lake Community Group. It's fabulous, but it is a private page. Pretty much anybody, can be a part, but we have no control if we post something and it gets deleted or removed for some reason. And then we get into, again, our records retention issues. And if somebody submits a public records request for that conversation or thread on social media, it may not exist anymore. We also run the risk of, my battery's running low, run the risk of having a serial meeting. If somebody on social media posts about, whatever the topic is, that's an upcoming topic that's going to be in front of the council, and 4 or more of the council members like it or comment on it somehow, that's an Open Public Meetings Act violation. So, I try my best to watch some of that and, warn people, hey, don't, hopefully nobody else makes another, even a thumbs up on some of these posts, because then, it just opens us up to trouble. I think we need to beef up our social media policy. I know that Cheney has done a lot of work on theirs, and I want to go, I've been through it a couple times, but I want to go through it with a little bit more detail and see if maybe I can bring that back as a proposal to everybody to maybe beef up our social media policy. But one of the challenges we do have is that I think is my biggest concern. Obviously, Open Public Meetings Act and record retention is a huge concern, but the potential to get wrong information out there, which has happened, whether it's referring to one of our a company that we're partnering with, referring to them by the wrong name, which I'm sure they don't appreciate, or misstating, how a project's going to be funded. That's all hard to take back, once it's out there. So, I want to push as hard as we can to make the communication come out of City Hall, and not from us personally. And I try best for my city address, keep mostly trying to just share what's on the city website. And I know I personally walk a fine line when I'm trying to answer questions, but I try to stick with facts and not opinions. But it's something I need to review personally as well. And I know there's been some other concerns from council members, so I didn't know if anybody wanted to add to that, but I do think we need to have a little bit more detail to this. It's only 6 bullet points. What is it? Yeah, basically. The meat of it is, 6 bullet points, and it gets into records retention and whatnot on here, about how to communicate if we use social media, the tone, I'm trying to choose my words carefully. The tone, including not attacking other council members, not attacking previous decisions. You know, I've been to enough MRSC trainings and, you know, great council meetings to say, you know, it's improper to criticize past actions of council. And we have had that happen, not just, you know, recently, but we have in the past too. I remember one of the first meetings I attended after I didn't get appointed to council the first time. The gentleman who got appointed, the first thing he did, his very first meeting, was totally criticize a plan that the council had to take Liberty Lake Road and, you know, kind of narrow it and put some parallel parking in. And one of the other council members just totally laid him flat, you know. And so I learned my lesson early on. You know, there are reasons why councils make decisions at the time they do, and to go back and question those things it's not proper. So I think we do need some more teeth. I think we need some more explanation and better understanding of what the legal ramifications are as well. And I know, Mayor Berto, I know you brought some social media stuff up at one point when I was out of town, so I didn't know if you wanted to add anything. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Councilmember Solberg.
So, Mayor, I don't think any of us are really new to this. And at the state level, we did this under executive ethics. I'm not sure that adding teeth would be the way that I would characterize what we need to do. And I do not agree. And I have looked at the MRSC guidelines and then went back for my notes for the state level as well. I know that some of the people in here have, I think there's only 2 people that have council member pages and things that are discussed there that seems to be following the guidelines of this. But the idea that if I'm a friend, which I am with several of you, and I'm not going to change it. Okay. And I'm going to like something when Jed puts a funny up there and I'm going to put a thumbs up, doesn't have anything to do with city business.
Right.
Nothing that I post on there has on my page has anything to do with city business.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we're just talking the city business
I'm
items.
saying that we need to change at least part of this, and I would remove that whole 10-4E1, the last part of it, and are strongly discouraged from friending other city council members or liking other city council members' posts.
But I think that maybe,
It's going-
or to clarify that, because I think.
If
I think
it's
the
not
intent
about
of-
city business, then that's
Exactly. I think the
censorship.
intent of that
Sorry.
is to, if you have a council member page and we all have a council member page, not to like
Yeah.
those or friend those.
And I don't think
Yeah.
anybody's done a reply to all and all the things that we've talked about. And if this comes up, and there have been times that I know that people had reminded somebody about something, that's what we do.
Mhm. Yeah, I just think
If somebody
a lot of
complains
things-
about it,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother thing.
A
But
lot of things have changed since this was put in place with regards to legal decisions and things. So I
well,
think,
even at
I think
state
we
level
can,
where it's pretty strict, it's
Yeah.
not this strict.
that I'll keep working on this. And, you know, now that Mark's here, I know, I'm sure you've got more experience on this, you know, from your past lives as well. We can suggest some edits. But I think it's more of a word of caution to everybody about the legal ramifications of some of the things that do get posted.
I'm just curious as to whether, because I know we're talking about moving forward with Zen City,
Mhm.
and I don't know all of the capabilities there, but it seems like it could be really cool if we could take official, you know, positions from the council and attach those to the things that are being sent out to the community.
Mhm.
I feel like on this library issue, I think there was a lot of information that was being passed around based on the responses, based on the letters that were being sent in. So to be able to go and see, okay, this is, you know, Councilmember Van Orman's position on this.
Mhm.
Okay, that's what she believes. And then you can craft your message to the council with those things in mind. Because I think a lot of the things that were brought up in these emails were from citizens who, if they had been in attendance to, you know, one of the meetings where we discussed it, it had already been discussed and already been dispelled.
Yeah, we'll have to look in to see, what the capabilities are, and if, as long as, again, if we're putting several different people's official opinions on something or stance, I don't want us to run afoul again of open public meetings, but if it's said here in a meeting and it's a quote, I personally don't see there would be any problem with that.
Or it's just a one-way statement, like,
exactly.
okay, we're gonna be, city administrator sends something out or social media specialist sends something out and says, hey, we're gonna get some community feedback on this topic.
Yeah.
If any of the council members want to give their official position on this, that could be attached, and then the citizens could see,
Yeah.
okay, here's where everybody sits. That could help them also base perhaps their opinion on the topic as well.
Yeah, and I think, again, as we continue to expand on these different avenues of reaching out to the public with Zen City and all the other social media, like I said, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or everything else we're doing, the more we can get out of that. And I know we still get a lot of questions that, sometimes the only place to answer them is on social media, but if we can continue to direct them back to our official website or back to staff, that's the best way to go.
And again, not that I disagree, but Wendy's page is until Zen City or something else does what it does, allowing discussion about things that have to do with Liberty Lake. It's going to cover 10 times, than the city. It's 100 times more people are going to be reading it, and not just the citizens of Liberty Lake, but those that come in. It's almost like a farmer's marketplace where the questions that come in from Otis Orchards and other places, and there's always somebody there to answer.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the answers aren't, there are opinions,
Yeah.
Which restaurant should you go to?
Yeah.
Well, that one sucks.
But again, having been the subject of a public records request, coming from some of those pages, I know the challenges of trying to recreate those records, and we do have software now that is helping with that. And I just lost my video, so I can see Dan. Think Dan's got a comment.
Thanks. Yeah. I'm very grateful for Spencer's observations about some alternative, I call it Zen City, like as a platform to encourage discussion in what I'll call the true public square. And I always want really everybody to challenge the notion that whatever their favorite public social media thing is the public square. And I'll draw the direct comparison in reference to the Open Public Meetings Act. Tonight, when we asked our citizens to come to the podium and speak, before they spoke, did we require them to sign a 24-page end user license agreement that said anything they said into the microphone would be used to sell something that they don't know about? You know what I mean? So in my opinion, participation in you name your favorite social media platform is truly not the public square on that basis. I would really appreciate the public being able to speak with a free voice, not having to know that what they're being said is going to be used to sell something to someone or to campaign against or for something. And that's exactly what the algorithms of your favorite social platform are used to do. So I'm all in with, the Zen City thing or some alternatives to what we have as those platforms, because they're not, I think, in the spirit of the Public Meetings Act, the public square. So.
Thanks, Dan, for your input. All right, anybody else?
One more, if I could, Mayor. There was a mention, let me go back here. Let's see here. This is in 1-10-4 A2.
Yep.
Where indicated certain provisions shall apply only to social media sites, tools that are owned or maintained by the city of Liberty Lake, including sites, tools that are established by the city for its representatives. So are we talking about representatives across the board? Are we just talking about city council members? Are we talking about the social media people? So I'm just curious whether, does it make sense to have the city have official pages on some sort of platform, whether it is somehow linked to the website, some sort of official capacity, that the city is maintaining for its representatives. I don't know. I think that's been kind of my trepidation, getting involved in certain conversations because I haven't set up a separate,
Right.
political page.
And your point well taken. And, when you look at this section, representatives in their official or employment capacity, and that's where you see a lot of new interpretations coming down almost all the time on, okay, well, what is required of your position, what's not? And if it's not required, then it really shouldn't be considered part of the, public records requirements. So that's where I think if we have better examples, and like I said, it's been a while since we went through this, since this was in
Mayor, if I
place.
can interject
Yeah.
one response to that. I think what this language is driving at, there are a couple of things, but I think one of the owned or maintained language is driving at is, for example, if we wanted to own a collection of, we, the city, wanted to own a collection of accounts that are city council spot
Position
1,
four,
2, 3,
yeah,
whatever.
right.
Regardless of who's in that spot, it's a city account. We maintain it, we archive it, we can provide the records on request, and whoever rotates in and out of that seat has use of it for that time, right? And so that's what that language is driving at. We presently don't have that. We have the capability to provide that,
Yeah.
but we don't have that presently. So that's something that you
Yeah.
may want to think about.
Yeah, and that's why I brought it up, because I thought, well, then it's all on the legit, the city has access to all that information, and if they need to do a public records request, they don't have to be going into individuals' private accounts. So I don't know.
Great, okay. Councilmember Kurtz and then Councilmember Van Orman.
Yeah, we brought this up, I think this was like a year and a half ago. And there were some things that were happening that were just, there were some things that were going on. And I, at the time, kind of went down a whole bunch of rabbit holes looking at what other cities do, not only for their representatives besides the council, but Gen Camp, the Parks and Arts, different commissions. And there was a lot of stuff that we didn't have in our ordinance. It was just a ton of information from a ton of different cities. A lot of cities have just more robust ordinances than we do. And we had just gone through, I think it was the ethics part of that. We didn't do so anyway. But I still have that document, and I don't know that it's helpful, other than to kind of launch off with some of the questions that I had at the time, because it really actually brought up a couple of us had a subcommittee, and it was either going to be like one word change, which would have fixed or addressed some of the things that were happening at the time. But then there were just all these other aspects of it that were not contemplated really in our ordinance as it was. So I think that I'm not sure who will be doing the work particularly, but there are a lot of other cities who address the representative side of it, whether that's council members or employees of the city, the dynamics of record retention, open public meetings, all of that. And I think it is going to be a little bit more of a lift to get this done than what we had originally intended, which is why it has taken so long.
And you lost a couple.
We lost a couple
Member-
people, we have new people. So it's nobody's fault that it has taken this long. I think that my hope with it is that it is, a significant and relevant change that addresses things for all of us. Especially, I think at the time we were in an election process, and there were some things that came up there. We are heading into that again. And so really wanting to put the scaffolding in place for folks, not just elected officials, but really making sure that everybody knows what the ordinances are, everybody knows what their responsibilities are, so that we can move forward.
Right. Great comments. Thanks. Councilmember Van Orman, I think you had your hand up.
I did, especially being the admin for city, for the Liberty Lake community page. A bit difficult, kind of like herding cats.
Yep.
But if we all know that we are not supposed to be commenting, no more than 3, we only act alone as ourselves. But if we see somebody else on there, we should not be commenting. And for the most part, if I catch it, I normally turn off the commenting. But puts me in a precarious position. Do I remain as admin? Or do I put my persona on and that's the only way I can handle the page?
Yeah.
So I'd like
Yeah.
to clear direction as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and turning off comments is much different than, some people have individually, right? You can comment on something and you can go in and delete your comment. So we don't have any control over other people deleting their own stuff. But turning off comments is, based on the 3-hour meeting I had at AWC last year on all of this, turning off comments is certainly proper. You just can't, get rid of
Right.
some.
And
Yeah.
as far as deleting comments.
Yeah.
They normally don't get deleted unless it's Facebook itself.
Yeah, or like I said, some people come back and regret what they say. I'm not saying it's any of
Yeah,
us, but
and
other
it would be
people,
somebody
yeah,
else
and then they
taking
take
it
it
off.
out. Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little slippery eel that we try to get a hold of and it's always getting away from us. All righty. I don't think we've got anything else. We'll just continue to follow up and Annie and I know you and I are gonna meet together on some other stuff fairly soon, so we can talk about this one as well. All right, there's no other comments. And Dan, I'm watching you up on the screen because I lost my computer power. You're good? All right. We're on to consent agenda. I'm gonna grab my water out.
Great, thank you, Mayor. Make a motion to approve consent agenda. General business items 10A and B.
Second.
Sorry.
Questions? All right, all in favor of approving general business consent agenda A and B, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Right, ayes have it, 7-0, motion passes.
Make a motion to approve general business item 11A to approve the purchase of a police drone and all the required accessories for $17,732.
Second.
A second by Councilmember Kurtz. Any questions or discussion? Not seeing any. And hey, Todd, can you tell me if Dan raises his hand? I can't see him. All right.
I'm good.
Great, thanks, Dan. All right, all in favor of approving general business A, approval of the purchase of a police drone, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 7-0.
Make a motion to approve general business 11B, approving the donation of 2 laptops to the Liberty Lake Library.
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Solberg. Any questions or discussions? I'd like to just personally thank our donor. Do I have her name here? Where did it go?
Sorry, I did have a question.
What? Yeah, go
It
ahead.
was similar to, and I don't know, is Jandy back there still? It was similar to last month's. Do we need to have it say on the donation form where it goes? Does anybody know?
So I think the policy allows for just a general donation
General.
or a specific designated donation.
So it can go either way.
Yes, it's usually from the person, the donor, how they're making the donation.
Yeah, that's section 3 where you can put a purpose, but you don't have to.
But you don't have to. Okay,
Right.
great. Thank you.
Yep, so thank you to Sharon Swain for the donation. All right, all in favor of approving the donation of 2 laptops, please say aye.
All right.
Hey,
Any opposed? Not hearing any, motion passes 7-0.
Make a motion to approve general business 11C, approving and authorizing the mayor to execute the order from form between Zen City and the city of Liberty Lake for 20-month licensure of a community engagement software platform in the amount of $12,000 each year.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Spencer. Any questions, discussion? Sounds like we're gonna jump right in. Go ahead, Councilmember Cargill.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm gonna vote against this, not because I don't want it, but rather because it's locking us into 24 months. I kind of wish we would have the 12 with the ability to extend the 12. I just don't want us to get into something and then we find out 6 months from now or 10 months from now that we don't like it, it's not working all that well, and then we're stuck with it for another 15 months. So that's the only reason is that it's 24 months as opposed to 12. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Councilmember Reynolds.
is there any possibility of limiting that to a year?
Mark, while you maybe attack that, I'm gonna refresh my review of the Ts and Cs on it.
Sure. So we can go back and we can renegotiate the term. What I will tell you is that the second year that we're getting for $12,000 will not be $12,000 if we go year to year. In other words, when we get to the next year upon renewal, it will be a cost factor plus that. I don't know what that cost factor is today, but I know it won't be $12,000. So we were attempting to.
With that being said, is there
Yes.
anything in our language itself that we can have a review period?
Presently, the way that the terms and conditions are stated, it's that it's a one-year contract with an automatic one-year renewal at the end of that term. So it's a two-year contract essentially with the renewal at the end of the 12th month.
And we do have the option to provide written notice of non-renewal at least 90 days before the end. So
Right.
we would, we can cancel it with 90 days notice before we're up before the second term starts, correct?
Hang on a sec. It's an automatic renewal with a 90-day notice prior to the renewal of termination. However, that is, in this case, Councilmember
The
Cargill is correct. It
21st.
would be
Okay.
after 24 months.
Correct.
So it would be at month 21 that you would have to give notice to terminate for an automatic renewal.
And of course, we also have our, any breach or non-performance ability to
Correct.
cancel as
That's right,
well.
for cause.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Can anybody speak to how long they feel it'll take to get a good measure of success with this? A year, 18 months?
So we estimate that to be 2 years, which is why we established the term at 2 years.
Thought you had said that, but I
Yep.
couldn't remember.
All right, any other questions? All right, not hearing any. Get back to my page here. All right, all in favor of approving the 2-year contract with Zen City, please say aye and keep your hands up.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Okay, it looks like motion passes 6-1 with Councilmember Cargill dissenting.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. General business 11D, make a motion to approve the purchase of 3 body cameras from Axon totaling $13,560.99, including tax.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Solberg. All right, any questions? All right, not seeing any. Please, all in favor of approving the purchase of the 3 body cameras from Axon, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, not hearing any. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, now we're up to council comments. Not to include upcoming meeting schedule, because we do have that still. All right, not hearing any. We don't have any public hearings or appeals.
Mayor,
Yes.
I missed one thing that I should have suggested. That
Sure.
if any of the council members, and I already sent this to Mark and to the work group for the camping ordinance. If anybody's interested on March 8th, from 4 to 6 in the afternoon at Center Place, the Spokane Valley is doing a draft homeless action plan. It's an open house. And if we're interested in any of the things that are going on and we're neighbors and we're gonna draft ordinances that are connected to them, it might be a good chance. It doesn't look like there's any formal agenda for it. There's some presentations and opportunities to interact with
Great.
them.
And I saw you send that out. Did you copy everybody?
I did not send it out to the council yet, but I
Could
will
you do
if
that?
you want. Yeah,
That'd be
I will.
great. Thank you. All right, now we're up to resolutions. Number 23-243.
Resolution number 23-243 is a resolution supporting revisions to recent state policies on vehicular pursuits by law enforcement.
Okay, now this came about as a result of some of our revision House bills and Senate bills that are coming through, one of which I mentioned earlier, which did make it out of committee, which at the last meeting, we weren't sure it was going to. And even Mark, when he was there, I got an email, he had hit up one of our AWC lobbyists and she's like, it's about 50-50. And luckily it made it to the next step. So thank you to those who, I think Councilmember Cargill, I think you were one who had asked to bring this forward to support the revisions to the previous policies that were put in place. So does anybody have any questions or comments on the resolution as it's written? All right, not hearing any. All in favor of
Do you need a
approving?
motion?
Oh, yeah, I do. God, and I need to take public comment. It's getting late. So do we have a motion for resolution 23-243?
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
Seconded.
and count. And a second by Councilmember Van Ormond. All right, any comments? Not, I will go to the audience, either here or in Zoom. Are there any public comments on this resolution, just on this resolution? Anybody on Zoom, Todd? All right, not hearing any. Those in favor of approving resolution 23-243, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, motion passes 7-0. Okay, we already did 15A, so we have no emergency ordinances. Upcoming agenda items, you've got your sheet in front of you here, so we got past the 21st, March 7th. Kyle, I know you're on, you've been pretty quiet. Are we set to talk more about the utility tax rebate program at the next meeting?
Yes, we are.
Okay, and local sales tax, okay, great. March 4th is our retreat in the afternoon. We've got some TBDs on demo with Civic Clerk. So I guess you guys will let us know when that's gonna be ready. Okay, camping ordinance, Mark, you'll keep us updated on that.
Yes, we met this afternoon, so at the next meeting, we'll have a full update for you,
Okay.
for the council.
Mayor, quick question
Yes.
on civic clerk.
Yeah.
Is that the same as iLegislate? Or are we doing a different one?
I'll like, let's see.
It's an alternative to the Granicus software, so it would perform similar functions, both for agenda creation and management, as well as publishing on our website. It is owned by Civic Plus, our current webpage, so it integrates very nicely. It does also have a voting option that can be used remotely, and all of that. So I've been researching, and if we decide, we're working on getting a quote. If we decide we might want to move forward to it, we'd love to bring it to you guys for your input and feedback, since you would be utilizing it, see if it's something you're also interested in.
So is Granicus, are we done with Granicus and?
We're still
iLegislate?
currently using it for agenda management. We have a contract renewal coming up, which is what prompted us to look into some other options. So
Okay, thank you.
Kelsey's done a great job of researching all these things that she's taken this position, so keep it up. All right, commission appointment process, Mayor Pro Tem, I don't know if you've got any particular time frame for that. And Selkirk Middle School Hub Trail, again, way down the line, waiting for things to happen at the hub. So we'll obviously put on here our joint workshop with library board. Is there any other hot topics that anybody wants to put on our future agenda workshops?
Mayor, before the farmer's market opens up, can we have a discussion about whether or not we're going to have city council participation at the farmer's market?
Sure. All right, we'll take a look and see, we'll look at the March 7th agenda and see if there's room for that. I don't think that discussion will take too long. Okay. Because there was never, there was a vote on it, but there was never a resolution or anything around that. So, all right, anything else I'm missing that we need to
No.
put on the future agenda?
Just a question
Yeah.
on the joint meeting with the library trustees. How are you gonna, you're gonna set a doodle? what do you
Yeah, we're
call
gonna
it?
send it, yeah.
Doodle.
Doodle poll.
So, we'll be looking for it?
Yes.
Okay.
The
You
next couple-
can't miss
next-
it. Just hit your buttons. It'll be just
Yeah.
fine.
Yep. Mark's a
Yeah.
good doodler.
So we'll get that out in the next few days. All right, anything else anybody can think of for the future agenda items? Councilmember Dunn, do you have anything we're missing?
I'm good.
Okay, all right. All right, great. So now we are back to citizen comments. So this is our second opportunity for our citizens to make comments. So I've got two set here for council chambers, and if there's a third. And then again, if anybody's online who wants to make a comment, go ahead and send a note to Todd in our chat, and he'll let me know. So we are up first. We've got Michael Hamlet first.
Thank you for the time. I am Brad Hamlet's son, just for full disclosure. I got a chance to talk to Councilman Cargill and it's Councilman Spencer, is that correct? In between times, and there was something I felt was missed in the conversation. In the textual printing of the direction of the library, there is this concept that was originally made in the literature or in the writing of the document. And that was to insulate the library from democratic processes. And the argument for our community right now is, do we want a democratically held or controlled library? Or do we want an insulated library? Those are two very different things. And they're important conversations to have. Councilman Cargill made a great point. He said, if we want a democratically held library, we need to create a library district. The council should not be held responsible for democratic control. There's another mechanism for doing that. If we want to have an insulated library, and those libraries create marketplaces of ideas, and they become repositories of knowledge. If we want that, the current structure, the Republican structure that's already been created, is the direction we go with. And that's the argument or the conversation we have to have. What do we want as a community? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're keeping it in the family. Sue Hamlet. Please step up.
Sue Hamblett. Really only thing I had to say is that I do look it's important to me that when we're making decisions that we consider who is the professionals at making these decisions, who has the education and the background to make these decisions. If I, for instance, were hiring a contractor to build my house, I would imagine that he would make plans and he'd have everything set up for me so that I know that he would make the right decisions. I don't know if it would be very instructive for me to say, I need another nail there. And do you think you can put a screw in that wall over there? I think after a while that my micromanaging of that contractor would make him go, or he or she, you know what? It sounds to me like you really don't need me. So take that into consideration, that we need to make sure our experts that we look to for advice are listened to. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Shauna Dean.
I am surprisingly not going to talk about the library, at least not directly. I'm talking about social media policy and the community, the Liberty Lake community page. I understand that Councilwoman Van Orman is an admin there. I have concerns with that because I have had comments deleted from that page, and they weren't incendiary. They were somebody else made a post and I just commented on that post and my comment disappeared. The post got deleted. And if it's not an admin doing it, if it's some Facebook algorithm that's deleting my comment and not any of the other comments, that's
we can get more details.
yeah. I
later.
thought we
This
weren't
is
supposed to have
correct.
back and forth on this.
Afterwards.
And I have heard other people say that their comments have been deleted, not their posts, but their individual comments. I also have seen social media posts by Chris Cargill on his official page where he summarizes these council meetings and he gives his opinions about what people are doing or why. One of the opinions was about the library board, and it was not a correct opinion. And then that got posted on the Liberty Lake community page. It was a misconstruction of something that he believed that the board did. And we had repeatedly said, we had received counsel from the city attorney, but he said we used our own interpretation. I have a problem with that. I don't think it's a good use of the Liberty Lake community page. I don't think that I don't see how giving opinions like that misconstrue things that are said in meetings is okay either. So that's just my comment on the social media policies.
Great, thank you. Okay, and third time's a charm. We got another Hamlet. I need that. Yeah, I have to have it. Thank you.
Brad Hamblett, citizen and also a member of the Board of Trustees. First of all, I want to say I appreciate the arrangement of the meeting, and I would be the first to agree that there wasn't enough time for us to have a complete discussion, that it warrants a complete discussion. There were some comments made, though, during the discussion of the ordinance that I feel need to be addressed. First of all, there was a comment made about political pressure from comments from citizens. I have a problem with that. As a council member, you're here to listen to your citizens, whether they're all one-sided or not, at one meeting or not. I don't view that as political pressure. I believe that is a pretty resounding voice of opinion regarding a certain subject that has been posted by the city will be on the agenda. So I have a problem with that. The second thing that I have a problem with is that we have a meeting and it's commented on that it basically was not a very productive meeting because there was no discussion. I have a problem with that because there were a few members of the council who did not comment and chose to save their comments for the discussion of the ordinance. That is a problem for me. Because if you're going to come to a meeting, you need to have your comments prepared to share with everybody in the meeting. And that discussion cannot happen unless everyone brings those ideas and is willing to participate in the discussion at the time that we are set to meet. Having said that, I look forward to another meeting and a thorough discussion of where we are at, where we want to go, and keeping in mind our citizens in the entire discussion and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Brad, sorry, I keep wanting Todd. Do we have anybody on Zoom? All right, we have nobody on Zoom. Hmm?
He didn't. I said the cat dialed back in, but he didn't.
So we have no executive session, so we are up to adjournment. So if there's nobody opposed, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting and we'll see you in a couple weeks. All right, thanks for coming, everybody. Appreciate it.